If you enjoy immersive storytelling and powerful mafia narratives, please support the channel with a like and subscribe. It truly makes a difference for our team.
The bullet shattered the wine glass before she even heard the shot. One moment, Rhea Carter was clearing plates from table 7, the table no one wanted to serve. The next, the entire restaurant exploded into chaos. Glass rained down like deadly confetti. Screams tore through the air. And the most dangerous man in the city, Adrian Volkov, the crime boss everyone feared, was staring straight at her with eyes that promised both danger and something she couldn't name. She should have run. Instead, she moved toward him. Want to see how a broke waitress became the most powerful woman in the criminal underworld? Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Rhea's story travels. The fluorescent lights of Marcello's restaurant flickered at exactly 9:47 p.m. every Tuesday night, like clockwork. Rhea Carter had worked there long enough to know the rhythm of the place, the hum of the kitchen, the clink of silverware, the nervous shuffle of feet when he arrived. Adrian Volkov. Even his name felt dangerous to speak aloud. She didn't know much about him, didn't want to. In this city, ignorance was survival, but she knew enough. He owned half the businesses on the north side, the other half paid him protection money, and the people who crossed him had a habit of disappearing. Every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, he claimed table 7 in the back corner, always alone, always silent. And every server in the restaurant would suddenly remember they had something urgent to do in the kitchen. Rhea pulled her dark hair into a tighter ponytail and grabbed the tray of dirty dishes from table 3. Her feet ached, her back ached, everything ached. This was her second shift today. She'd started at Marcello's at 11 a.m., covered someone's afternoon shift at the diner on 5th Street, and come back here for the dinner rush. 18 hours on her feet, and she still had another hour to go. Rhea. Marco, the head waiter, appeared at her elbow, his face pale and sweaty. I need you to take table 7 tonight. She nearly dropped the tray. What? Sophia called in sick. Danny quit. And I'll be damned if I'm doing it. Marco's hands trembled as he adjusted his bow tie. You're the only one left. There are 6 other servers on the floor, who all have seniority over you. His voice dropped. Look, I'm sorry, kid, but it's you or me, and I've got a family. Rhea set down the tray with more force than necessary. Fine. Just keep your head down. Don't talk unless he talks to you first. Don't make eye contact. Bring whatever he orders, take his money, and get out. Understand? She'd heard this speech before, every time someone new had to serve Volkov, as if fear was something you could pass on like a manual, as if being afraid would somehow keep you safe. Rhea had learned a long time ago that fear didn't pay the bills. At 9:58 p.m., the front door opened. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Adrian Volkov stepped inside like he owned the place, which, according to Marco's whispered gossip, he probably did. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair cut sharp and precise, wearing a suit that cost more than her entire year's salary. But it wasn't the expensive clothes that made people look away. It was his eyes, cold, calculating, the kind of eyes that saw everything and forgot nothing. 2 men flanked him, thick-necked and dangerous, scanning the restaurant like predators assessing prey. But Volkov walked alone to table 7, and his guards took positions by the door and the kitchen entrance. Rhea grabbed a menu and a glass of water, her movements automatic. Around her, the other servers had mysteriously vanished. Even Marco had found urgent business in the back office. She approached table 7 with steady steps. Volkov didn't look up. He was reading something on his phone, one hand resting on the white tablecloth, a silver ring glinting on his middle finger. The overhead light cast shadows across his face, sharp cheekbones, and a jaw that looked like it had been carved from stone. Rhea set down the water glass and menu. Good evening. Can I start you with whiskey? Neat. The Macallan 25 if Marco hasn't watered it down yet. His voice was smooth, almost pleasant. That somehow made it worse. Right away. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. And the salmon, however the chef recommends. Of course. She didn't bow, didn't shuffle backward, didn't avert her eyes the way everyone said you were supposed to. She just nodded once and walked to the bar. Behind the polished mahogany counter, Tom, the bartender, was already pouring the whiskey with shaking hands. Table 7? Yeah. Jesus, Rhea, I'm sorry. He slid the glass toward her. Wish it was anyone but you. It's fine. She picked up the whiskey, noting how the amber liquid caught the light. It's just a customer. That's not just a customer, Tom hissed. Last month, a guy bumped into his table and apologized. Volkov smiled, said no problem, even paid the guy's tab. 2 days later, they found him in the river. Maybe it was unrelated. They found him in the river wearing concrete shoes, Rhea. She carried the whiskey back to table 7, her expression neutral. Some part of her brain acknowledged the fear, the prickling awareness that she was approaching something dangerous, but it was buried under layers of exhaustion. Fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not when her brother Danny needed his medication. Not when the rent was due in 3 days. Not when survival meant clocking in, doing the work, and clocking out. She set the whiskey down without a word. This time Volkov looked up. Their eyes met, and for a moment something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or curiosity. As if he'd expected her to flinch and was startled when she didn't. You're new, he said. I've worked here 8 months. Then why haven't I seen you? Because I'm usually assigned to sections 1 through 4. Table 7 isn't in my rotation. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. And why are you here tonight? Everyone else was busy. She pulled out her order pad. Your salmon should be ready in about 20 minutes. Is there anything else you need? He studied her for a long moment, his gaze sharp and assessing. She got the distinct impression he was trying to figure something out, testing some invisible boundary. What's your name? Rhea. Rhea Carter. Well, Rhea Carter, you're either very brave or very stupid. I'm broke, she said flatly, and broke doesn't leave much room for fear. But this time he did smile. A quick flash of white teeth that disappeared as fast as it came. Honest. I like that. The salmon will be out soon. She turned and walked away before he could say anything else. Back in the kitchen, Marco grabbed her arm. What did he say to you? He ordered salmon. That's it? He asked my name. Marco's face went even paler. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, Rhea. Relax. She pulled free from his grip. I told him. He said I was honest. End of conversation. You don't understand. When Volkov takes an interest in someone, he's not interested. He's just a customer. She grabbed the next order ticket from the line. And I've got 6 other tables that actually tip. But as the minutes ticked by, she felt the weight of Volkov's gaze following her around the restaurant. Every time she passed near table 7, she could sense his attention, sharp and focused. It wasn't leering or inappropriate. It was more like being studied, analyzed, cataloged. The salmon arrived at 10:23 p.m., perfectly plated with asparagus and garlic butter. Rhea delivered it without commentary. Sit down, Volkov said. She blinked. Excuse me? Sit down. He gestured to the chair across from him. You've been on your feet all day. Take a break. I'm working. I'm giving you permission. With respect, you're not my boss. Actually, he said, cutting into the salmon with precise movements, I own 40% of this restaurant. So technically, I am. Rhea's jaw tightened. Around them, the dining room had gone quiet. Not empty, but hushed, everyone pretending not to watch while absolutely watching. I have other tables, she said. They can wait. He took a bite, chewed thoughtfully, then nodded. The chef did well tonight. Tell him I said so. She didn't move. Volkov looked up again, and this time there was something almost amused in his expression. You're not going to sit, are you? No. Why not? Because I don't take orders from customers. I take their food orders and bring them what they ask for. That's the job. And if I make it part of my food order, sit down or I send back the salmon. Rhea's hands curled into fists at her sides. She could feel Marco's panicked stare burning into her back, could feel the entire restaurant holding its breath. Then I'll tell the chef you didn't like it, she said evenly, and bring you something else. For 3 long seconds, Volkov said nothing. Then he laughed, a genuine surprise sound that seemed to startle even him. All right, Rhea Carter, you win this round. He pulled out his wallet and extracted $500 bills, placing them on the table. For your trouble. She stared at the money. $500, more than she made in 2 weeks. The meal costs $48, she said. Consider the rest a tip. That's not a tip, that's a bribe. Bribe for what? I don't know yet. But when someone gives you money you didn't earn, they expect something in return. Volkov's smile faded. He studied her again, but this time his expression was different, sharper, more serious. You're right. I do expect something. Ria's heart kicked against her ribs, but she kept her voice steady. What? Honesty. That's all. He pushed the money closer. Everyone in this city either fears me or wants something from me. You're the first person in years who's looked me in the eye and spoken to me like I'm just another customer. That's rare. And rare things have value. I'm not for sale. I'm not buying. He stood, buttoning his jacket. Keep the money, don't keep it. Your choice. But understand this. I respect people who stand their ground. Most people I meet are either predators or prey. You're something else. He walked past her, his guards falling into step behind him. At the door, he paused and looked back. See you next Tuesday, Ria Carter. Then he was gone. The restaurant erupted into whispered chaos. Marco rushed over, his face a mask of horror and disbelief. What the hell was that? What did he say? Are you okay? Ria picked up the $500 bills with trembling hands. I think I just had the weirdest conversation of my life. He laughed. I heard him laugh. I've worked here 6 years, and I've never heard Adrian Volkov laugh. He's just a man, Marco. No, the older waiter said quietly, his eyes dark with knowledge. He's not. And you need to be very, very careful. But Ria folded the bills and tucked them into her apron, thinking about Danny's medication and the rent and the fact that $500 meant she could finally breathe for a week. She'd worry about the cost later. The following Tuesday, Ria arrived for her shift at 5 p.m., hoping that Sophia would be back and she'd be assigned to her normal section. But when she checked the schedule, her name was written next to table 7 in Marco's careful handwriting. You've got to be kidding me, she muttered. Marco appeared at her shoulder, looking haggard. He called ahead, specifically requested you. He can request all he wants. Assign someone else. Ria, Marco's voice dropped to a whisper. He owns this place. When Adrian Volkov requests something, it's not really a request. So I'm just supposed to be his personal waitress now? You're supposed to do your job and stay alive. Marco gripped her shoulder. Please, just be careful with him. At 10 p.m. exactly, Volkov arrived. Same suit, different tie. Same cold eyes, same dangerous grace. His guards took their positions, and he sat at table 7 like a king claiming a throne. Ria brought him water and a menu without being asked. Good evening, she said, her tone professionally neutral. Welcome back. Hello, Ria. He didn't look at the menu. I'll have the ribeye, medium rare, and tell the chef to skip the rosemary this time. It overpowered the meat last week. You ate here last week? I eat here every week. Always have. But you didn't order the ribeye last week. You ordered salmon. Volkov's eyes narrowed slightly, but there was approval in his gaze. You remember. It's my job to remember. Most servers forget their orders the moment they leave the table. I'm not most servers. She jotted down the order. Anything else? Sit with me. No. I'll pay you $1,000 for 10 minutes of conversation. Ria's pen paused over the paper. $1,000. Danny needed new medication, the expensive kind insurance didn't cover. $1,000 would buy them 2 months of breathing room. Why? She asked. Because I'm curious about you. Curiosity is expensive. I can afford it. He leaned back in his chair, relaxed and confident. 10 minutes. You can say no to any question. You can leave whenever you want. But I'd like to know more about the woman who treats me like I'm human. There was something almost lonely in the way he said it. Something that made Ria hesitate. 5 minutes, she said, and I'm keeping my apron on. This is still work. Fair enough. She pulled out the chair and sat, acutely aware of every eye in the restaurant watching them. Volkov signaled to one of his guards, who stepped forward. Clear the section, Volkov said quietly. Give us privacy. The guard nodded and began ushering other diners away from nearby tables, offering apologies and complimentary desserts. Within minutes, The back section of the restaurant was empty except for Rhea and the most dangerous man in the city. "You didn't have to do that," Rhea said. "Yes, I did. People eavesdrop." He folded his hands on the table. "Tell me about yourself, Rhea Carter." "What do you want to know?" "Why are you working double shifts? Marco mentioned you've been here almost 20 hours today." "I need the money." "For what?" "That's my business." He smiled faintly. "Fair. Different question. Where did you grow up?" "South Side, near the docks." She watched his expression, but it remained neutral. "My father worked in shipping until the industry collapsed. My mother cleaned houses. They're both gone now." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a long time ago." She shifted in her chair. "Why do you eat here every Tuesday?" "You said I could ask the questions." "You said I could say no to any question. I'm asking one of my own." Volkov considered this, then nodded. "Routine. Consistency. In my line of work, unpredictability gets you killed, so I build patterns, create rhythms. Same restaurant, same time, same table. It makes me an easy target, but it also makes me predictable in a way that keeps my enemies cautious. That's calculated. Everything I do is calculated." His gaze was steady, unflinching. "Except sitting here talking to you. This is unexpected." "You could stop?" "I could, but I don't want to." He tilted his head slightly. "You're not afraid of me." "Why?" Rhea thought about lying, about giving him some polite answer that would end the conversation. But something about the way he looked at her, like he actually wanted the truth, made her honest. "I'm too tired to be afraid," she said. "Fear takes energy I don't have. And besides, you're either going to hurt me or you're not. Being scared won't change the outcome." "You're wrong about that," Volkov said softly. "Fear often changes the outcome. Scared people make mistakes. They run when they should stand still. They lie when they should speak truth." "Then I guess I'm not scared enough." "Or you're exactly scared enough." He paused. "You have a brother." It wasn't a question. Rhea's spine straightened. "How do you know that?" "I know everything that happens in this city." His expression remained calm, almost gentle. "Danny Carter, age 19. Scholarship to State University, pre-med. Recently diagnosed with a chronic condition requiring expensive treatment." Ice flooded through Rhea's veins. "Stay away from him." "I have no interest in your brother, Rhea, but I understand now why you work yourself to exhaustion." He reached into his jacket, and every muscle in Rhea's body tensed, but he only pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table. "If you ever need help, I don't need your help. Everyone needs help eventually." "Not from you." She stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "My 5 minutes are up." "Rhea, your ribeye will be out in 20 minutes. She walked away before he could respond, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. He knew about Danny. He knew about the medication, the bills, the scholarship. He knew everything, and that was more terrifying than any threat. The next 3 Tuesdays followed the same pattern. Volkov arrived at 10, requested her as his server. Ordered food she delivered with professional efficiency. Each time he tried to engage her in conversation. Each time she kept her responses clipped and distant. But he kept leaving massive tips. $500. $700. Once, $1,000. Rhea took the money because she needed it, but she hated that she needed it. Hated the way it felt like chains wrapping around her. Obligation disguised as generosity. On the 5th Tuesday, everything changed. She was delivering Volkov's whiskey, Macallan 25, neat, same as always, when she noticed something off. The restaurant was quieter than usual. Not empty quiet, but tense quiet, like everyone was waiting for something to happen. Volkov noticed it too. She could see the shift in his posture, the way his hand moved closer to his jacket, the subtle hand signal he gave to his guards. "Rhea," he said quietly, "go to the kitchen. Now." "What's—" The front window exploded inward. Glass erupted across the dining room like a glittering wave of knives. Screams tore through the air. Rhea stumbled backward, the whiskey glass shattering at her feet. Her ears rang from the blast, her vision blurring with shock. Through the chaos, she saw them, 3 men in black masks, guns raised, moving with military precision. One kicked through the door. Another vaulted through the broken window. The third covered the exit. Volkov's guards drew weapons, shouting commands. Customers dove under tables. Marco grabbed the phone behind the bar, frantically dialing 911. And Volkov stood slowly, his expression cold and focused, reaching for something inside his jacket. "Adrian Volkov!" one of the masked men shouted. "You're coming with us, or we start shooting civilians." Time seemed to slow down. Ria saw it happening frame by frame. The gunman swinging his weapon toward Volkov. The guard on the left drawing his pistol too slowly. The second gunman aiming at the ceiling, ready to fire a warning shot. And Volkov, standing exposed in the middle of it all, a perfect target. Later, Ria wouldn't remember making the decision. She would only remember moving. She threw herself forward, colliding with Volkov's chest with enough force to knock him sideways. They crashed into the table together, wood splintering beneath them. The whiskey glass tumbled through the air, silverware scattered like shrapnel. Gunfire erupted, sharp, deafening cracks that made Ria's entire body flinch. Bullets tore through the space where Volkov had been standing, punching holes in the wall, shattering the mirror behind the bar. Volkov's arms wrapped around her, rolling them both behind the overturned table. His body covered hers, heavy and protective. She could hear his heart pounding, feel the tension in his muscles. "Stay down," he growled in her ear. More gunfire. Shouting. The sound of breaking glass and splintering wood. Volkov's guards returned fire, the sharp crack of pistols mixing with the deeper boom of shotguns. One of the masked men went down, clutching his shoulder. Another retreated toward the door. Then, as quickly as it started, it ended. The attackers fled through the broken window, leaving behind shattered glass, bullet holes, and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Volkov lifted himself slightly, checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" Ria's hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. I don't think so." "You pushed me." His voice was strange, almost disbelieving. "You pushed me out of the line of fire. You were standing right there. They were going to shoot you. So you jumped in front of a bullet for me?" "I didn't think. I just moved." She tried to sit up, but her arms wouldn't support her weight. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her weak and trembling. Volkov helped her up, his hands steady and surprisingly gentle. Around them, the restaurant was chaos. Customers crawled out from under tables. Marco was shouting into the phone. One of Volkov's guards barked orders, securing the exits. And Volkov was staring at her like she'd just done something impossible. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "Anyone would have—" "No." His grip on her arms tightened slightly. "No one would have done what you just did. No one." Police sirens screamed outside. Red and blue lights flashed through the broken windows. Volkov's guards moved to intercept the officers, controlling the scene with practiced efficiency. But Volkov didn't move. He stood there, holding Ria's arms, looking at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "I need to go," he said finally, before the police asked too many questions. "But you—" He released her and pulled something from his jacket, another business card, identical to the first one he'd given her. "Call this number tomorrow. Someone will answer." "I don't want—" "This isn't a request, Ria." His voice was harder now, back to the cold authority she'd first heard. "You just saved my life in front of a dozen witnesses. People will know about this by midnight, and when people know you matter to me, you become a target." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "You need protection, security, and you need to disappear from this restaurant." He glanced at Marco, who was being questioned by a police officer. "Tonight was an assassination attempt. They failed because of you. They won't make that mistake twice." "So what, I'm just supposed to hide? Change my whole life?" "Yes." He pressed the card into her hand. "Call the number, do exactly what they tell you. And Ria—" His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something human in them, something that might have been fear. "Thank you." Then he turned and walked toward the back exit, his guards forming a protective wall around him. Within seconds, he was gone, vanished into the night like smoke. Ria stood in the middle of the destroyed restaurant, her uniform covered in broken glass, her hands still trembling, the business card clutched in her fingers. Marco appeared at her side, his face pale and shocked. "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" "No, he—" She looked at the card. It was plain black with silver text, a phone number, nothing else. He thanked me. For what? I don't know. She slipped the card into her pocket. I really don't know. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. She'd saved Adrian Volkov's life, and in doing so, she'd changed her own forever. The police questioned her for 2 hours. She told them the truth, or most of it. Men with guns, broken windows, chaos. She'd panicked and knocked over a table, accidentally pulling Volkov with her. Pure coincidence, lucky timing. They didn't believe her, but they couldn't prove otherwise. At 2 a.m., they finally let her go. Marco drove her home in his beat-up Honda, neither of them speaking. When they pulled up outside her apartment building, a rundown complex near the docks, he finally broke the silence. You should leave the city, he said. I can't. Danny's school is here. His doctors are here. Ria, those men weren't robbers. This wasn't random. Marco's hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough to turn his knuckles white. This was an organized hit on Adrian Volkov, and you got in the middle of it. I know. Do you? He turned to look at her, his eyes haunted. I've lived in this city my whole life. I know how this works. Volkov's enemies will see what you did. They'll think you're important to him. They'll come after you to get to him. Then what am I supposed to do? Marco was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Call that number he gave you. Are you serious? Volkov's a monster, Ria, but he's a monster who protects his people. If he offered you help, take it, because the alternative is a lot worse. Ria climbed out of the car without answering. She rode the elevator to the 4th floor, her body moving on autopilot. Danny was asleep when she let herself into their small apartment, his textbooks still spread across the kitchen table. She stood in the doorway of his room, watching him breathe, thinking about masked gunmen and shattering glass, and the weight of Volkov's body covering hers, protecting her even as she'd protected him. The business card burned in her pocket like a brand. She pulled it out, staring at the number in the dim light from the hallway. 1 call. That's all it would take. 1 call, and she'd be stepping into a world she'd spent her whole life avoiding. But what choice did she have? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Ria Carter. Volkov's voice was unmistakable. I wasn't sure you'd answer. How did you get this number? I told you. I know everything that happens in this city. A pause. Did you call the number on the card? Not yet. Why not? She moved into the living room, keeping her voice low so she wouldn't wake Danny. Because I don't trust you. Smart. You shouldn't. He sounded almost amused. But you should trust your instincts, and your instincts are telling you that something is very wrong right now. What do you want from me? I want to keep you alive. His tone shifted, becoming more serious. Those men tonight, they were professionals, hired by my enemies to make a statement. They failed, but they saw you. They saw what you did. And by tomorrow morning, every criminal organization in this city will know that Adrian Volkov has a new weakness. I'm not your weakness. You became one the moment you pushed me out of that bullet's path. He exhaled slowly. I'm sending a car to your building. It'll be there in 10 minutes. You're going to pack a bag for you and your brother, get in that car, and let my people take you somewhere safe. Like hell I am. Ria, this isn't a negotiation. You're right. It's not. Because I'm not some helpless civilian who needs a crime boss to protect her. Her hand tightened around the phone. I appreciate the concern, but I can take care of myself. No, Volkov said quietly, dangerously. You can't. You're a waitress who works double shifts to pay for her brother's medication. You're exhausted and broke and brave enough to jump in front of a bullet without thinking. But brave doesn't stop bullets, Ria. Brave doesn't stop the people who will come for you now. Then what does? Me. A pause. Let me protect you. Both of you. She wanted to say no. Wanted to hang up, delete the number, pretend this night had never happened. But Danny was sleeping 20 feet away, vulnerable and unaware. And the memory of those masked gunmen was too fresh, too vivid. If I say yes, she said slowly, what does that make me? What do I become? Safe, Volkov answered. You become safe. Everything else is details. Ria closed her eyes, thinking about her father who'd worked himself to death in the shipyards, her mother who'd cleaned rich people's houses until her hands bled, the long line of Carters who'd scraped and survived and never asked for help from anyone. And then she thought about Danny, brilliant and kind, who wanted to be a doctor, who had his whole life ahead of him. 10 minutes, she said. The car better be bulletproof. It is. She could hear the slight smile in Volkov's voice. Welcome to my world, Rhea Carter. He hung up. Rhea stood in the darkness of her tiny apartment, the phone still pressed to her ear, and wondered if she'd just made a deal with the devil. Outside, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up to the curb. The clock on the wall read 2:47 a.m., and everything Rhea Carter thought she knew about her life ended in that moment. The SUV's interior smelled like leather and gunpowder. Rhea sat in the back seat with Danny pressed against her side, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. He'd woken when she shook him, stumbling out of sleep to find his sister stuffing clothes into a duffel bag with trembling hands. "Rhea, what's happening?" he asked, for the third time since they'd left the apartment. "I'll explain everything," she said, watching the city blur past the tinted windows. "I promise. Just trust me right now." The driver was a brick wall of a man named Victor, who'd introduced himself with a curt nod and hadn't spoken since. Another guard sat in the passenger seat, constantly scanning the streets with the vigilance of someone expecting an attack at any moment. They drove north, away from the docks and the cramped apartment buildings, into neighborhoods Rhea had only ever seen from bus windows. The houses grew larger, the streets grew cleaner. Trees appeared, actual trees with leaves and branches, not the struggling saplings that barely survived in the south side. After 40 minutes, they turned into a gated community. The guard at the entrance waved them through without question. The SUV climbed a winding road higher and higher until Rhea could see the entire city spread out below them like a glittering carpet of lights. Then they stopped. The house, no, the estate, rose before them like something out of a magazine. Modern architecture, all glass and steel and sharp angles, with security lights that blazed to life as they approached. A fountain dominated the circular driveway. Cameras tracked their movement from every corner. "Holy shit," Danny breathed. Victor parked and opened Rhea's door. "This way." They followed him up marble steps to massive double doors that swung open before he could knock. A woman in her 50s stood in the entrance, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun, her expression professionally neutral. "Miss Carter, Master Daniel." Her accent was faintly Eastern European. "I am Irina. I manage Mr. Volkov's household. Please come inside." The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. High ceilings, polished floors, art that probably cost more than Rhea's entire apartment building. Everything was clean, expensive, and intimidating. Danny's hand found Rhea's squeezing tight. He was scared, she realized. Her brilliant, brave little brother was terrified. "It's okay," she whispered. "Is it?" he whispered back. "Because it really doesn't feel okay." Irina led them through a series of hallways to a wing of the house that felt slightly more lived in. She opened a door to reveal 2 connected bedrooms, each larger than their entire apartment. "You will stay here tonight," Irina said. "There are clothes in the closets, toiletries in the bathrooms. If you need anything, press the button on the nightstand. Someone will respond immediately." "Where's Volkov?" Rhea asked. "Mr. Volkov will speak with you in the morning. He suggested you both get some rest." Irina's expression softened slightly. "You have had a difficult night. Sleep. You are safe here." She left, closing the door with a soft click. Danny immediately crossed to the window, pulling back the curtain. "There are guards outside, like actual armed guards patrolling the grounds." "I know." "Rhea." He turned to face her, his young face pale and drawn. "What the hell did you get us into?" So she told him. Not everything. She left out the part about pushing Volkov out of the line of fire, made it sound more accidental than it was. But enough. The attack at the restaurant. The masked gunman. Volkov's warning about becoming a target. Danny listened without interrupting, his expression cycling through disbelief, fear, and finally, a kind of resigned understanding. "You saved a crime boss's life," he said when she finished. "I didn't mean to." "But you did." He sat on the edge of the bed, running his hands through his hair. "And now we're in his house, under his protection, which means we owe him." "We don't owe him anything." "Rhea, come on, you're smart. You know how this works. His eyes met hers, suddenly older than 19. People like Adrian Volkov don't offer protection out of kindness. They do it because they want something in return. She wanted to argue, but the words stuck in her throat. Because Danny was right. Of course he was right. We'll figure it out, she said instead. Tomorrow. Right now you need sleep. You have class at 9. I'm not going to class. Yes, you are. Your scholarship can wait one day. He stood, moving to her side. I'm not leaving you alone in a crime boss's house, Rhea. Not happening. She wanted to protest, to insist that she could handle this herself. But the truth was, she was grateful, terrified, and grateful, and completely out of her depth. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. They barely slept. Rhea lay in the impossibly comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the estate. Footsteps in the hallway. The distant hum of security systems. The whisper of wind through expensive trees. At 6 a.m., she gave up and took a shower, letting the hot water wash away the residual fear and adrenaline. The bathroom was absurd. Marble and chrome, with a shower that had more settings than her car. She found clothes in the closet like Irina had promised. Designer labels, perfect sizes, as if someone had measured her while she slept. It was unsettling how prepared they were, how much they knew. At 7, there was a knock on the door. Irina appeared with the breakfast tray, coffee, pastries, fresh fruit, eggs cooked 3 different ways. Mr. Volkov will see you at 8, she said, setting the tray on a small table. In his office. 3rd floor, West Wing. Victor will escort you. And Danny? Master Daniel is welcome to explore the grounds, use the library, or remain in his room. Security will be informed of his presence. After Irina left, Danny picked at the food while Rhea paced. You don't have to do this alone, he said. I can come with you. No, this is my mess. I'll handle it. Rhea, please, Danny, just stay here. Stay safe. Let me talk to him first. He looked like he wanted to argue, but finally nodded. If you're not back in an hour, I'm coming to find you. Deal. At precisely 8 o'clock, Victor appeared to escort her through the maze of hallways. They climbed a sweeping staircase to the 3rd floor, past more art and expensive furniture, and stopped outside a heavy wooden door. Victor knocked twice, then opened it. Miss Carter? Rhea stepped inside. The office was all dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Bookshelves lined 2 walls, filled with leather-bound volumes that looked actually read, not just decorative. A massive desk dominated the center of the room, its surface clean except for a laptop and a single photograph in a silver frame. Adrian Volkov stood by the window, his back to her, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Without the suit jacket, he looked almost human. Almost. Close the door, he said without turning around. She did. The click of the latch loud in the quiet room. He turned then, and in the morning light she could see the signs of a sleepless night. Shadows under his eyes, tension in his shoulders, a tightness around his mouth. How did you sleep? He asked. I didn't. Neither did I. He moved to the desk, leaning against it with his arms crossed. I've been thinking about what you did, trying to understand it. There's nothing to understand. I reacted. That's all. No one just reacts by throwing themselves in front of a bullet. His eyes searched her face. People freeze. They run. They duck for cover. They don't charge toward danger to save someone they barely know. Maybe I'm stupid. You're not stupid, Rhea. You're reckless. There's a difference. He pushed off the desk, moving closer. Do you understand what you've done? What it means? You keep saying that, what it means, but you never actually explain. It means, he said quietly, that you've painted a target on your back. Every enemy I have, and I have many, will now see you as leverage. As a weakness they can exploit. They will come for you. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when they do, they won't be gentle. Rhea's jaw tightened. Then I'll leave the city, take Danny somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe, not from the kind of people who want me dead. He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. They have resources, connections, reach. You could run to the other side of the country and they would still find you. So what? I'm just trapped here? A prisoner in your house? Not a prisoner. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. An employee. She blinked. What? I'm offering you a job, Ria. Work for me. Let me pay you properly, not table scraps and tips. I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't afraid to speak truth to power. Someone who proved last night that they're willing to put themselves on the line. Doing what? Managing things. My legitimate businesses need oversight. Restaurants, clubs, real estate. I need someone with fresh eyes, someone smart enough to see problems before they become disasters. He watched her reaction carefully. You'd be well compensated, housing included. Medical insurance for you and your brother, his medication, his tuition, all covered. It was a golden cage, wrapped in silk and locked with benefits. And if I say no, she asked, then I'll still protect you, still keep you safe. But you'll be dependent on my charity instead of earning your own way. His expression was unreadable. I'm guessing you hate charity. He was right. She did hate it. Hated feeling like she owed anyone anything. What's the catch? She asked. Because there's always a catch. The catch is that you'll see things, know things, be part of a world that most people only read about in newspapers. He moved back to the window, hands in his pockets. And once you're in, truly in, there's no going back. You'll be compromised, complicit. No matter how legitimate the work I give you, you'll know what else I do, what I really am. I already know what you are. Do you? He glanced back at her. You know I'm dangerous. You know people fear me. But do you know why? Do you know what I've done to build this empire? The bodies I've buried, the lives I've destroyed, the moral lines I've crossed without hesitation? No, she admitted, and I'm not sure I want to. Then walk away, right now. I'll still keep you protected, still make sure you're safe. But you'll be on the outside, always wondering, always dependent. Ria thought about Danny's medication bottles lined up on their bathroom counter, about the scholarship that covered tuition but not living expenses, about the endless cycle of double shifts and exhaustion and barely scraping by. She thought about the business card in her pocket, about the moment she'd thrown herself at Volkov without thinking, driven by instinct and adrenaline and something she couldn't quite name. If I do this, she said slowly, I have conditions. Volkov raised an eyebrow. You're negotiating? You said you respected people who stand their ground. Was that a lie? A small smile touched his lips. No, it wasn't. What are your conditions? Danny stays out of this completely. He goes to school, lives his life, never gets touched by whatever you do. He's off limits, non-negotiable. Agreed. I want my own space, not here, somewhere separate. I'll arrange an apartment, secure building, top floor unit, full security. And I want honesty. If something is illegal, if something crosses a line, I want to know. Don't hide it from me and claim ignorance later. Volkov was quiet for a long moment, studying her with that intense, calculating gaze. You understand what you're asking? Most people in this business survive by not knowing too much, by maintaining plausible deniability. I'm not most people. No, he agreed softly. You're really not. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Ria Carter? She looked at his hand, strong, scarred, the hand of someone who'd built an empire through force and will. Taking it would change everything, would pull her into a world she'd spent her whole life avoiding. But staying on the outside meant staying powerless. And Ria was tired of being powerless. She shook his hand. We have a deal. His grip was firm, warm. Welcome to the team. We start immediately. The next week was a blur of information and adjustment. Volkov was true to his word. He set her up in a penthouse apartment downtown, all steel and glass with a view that took her breath away. Security was constant but unobtrusive. Cameras, guards, protocols she had to memorize. Danny moved into the second bedroom, still suspicious but gradually accepting their new reality. His medication arrived in neat monthly supplies. His tuition was paid in full. He even got a new laptop to replace the ancient one that barely functioned. This is insane, he said on their third night, standing on the balcony overlooking the city. A week ago, we were eating ramen for dinner. Now we have a chef. We don't have a chef, Ria corrected. We have access to meal delivery from Volkov's restaurants. Same thing. He turned to her, his expression serious. Are you sure about this? Really sure? No, she admitted. But what choice do we have? We always have choices. Do we? Because from where I'm standing, the choices were struggle and fail slowly or accept help and survive. She leaned against the railing. I chose survival. At what cost? That was the question that kept her awake at night. What would this deal eventually cost her? Volkov started her with the restaurants, 5 establishments scattered across the city, all legitimate businesses on the surface. Her job was simple: review operations, identify inefficiencies, make improvements. But even in the legitimate businesses, she could see the shadow of his other empire, the way certain shipments weren't logged, the cash payments that disappeared from the books, the employees who worked but didn't officially exist. She didn't ask about them, not yet. Instead, she focused on what she could control. She reorganized inventory systems, negotiated better supplier contracts, implemented new training protocols for staff. She was good at it, better than she expected. Years of working multiple jobs had taught her efficiency, and her experience at Marcello's gave her insights the previous managers had missed. Volkov noticed. He started giving her more responsibility. A nightclub that was hemorrhaging money, a hotel with staffing issues, a construction project running behind schedule. She fixed them all. You have a gift for this, he said during one of their weekly meetings. They met in his office every Friday at 6, reviewing numbers and discussing operations. You see patterns others miss. I just pay attention, she said, reviewing a spreadsheet on her laptop. Your club manager at Onyx is skimming profits, about $3,000 a month. Volkov's expression didn't change. How do you know? The inventory numbers don't match the sales reports. Someone's moving bottles off the books. She turned the laptop toward him, showing her calculations. Either he's stealing or he's selling to someone who's not reporting income. Which do you think it is? Stealing. The pattern is too consistent to be shared with someone else. He's taking a little bit every week, not enough to trigger automatic flags, but enough to add up. Volkov made a note on his phone. I'll handle it. How? He looked up at her, and something cold flickered in his eyes. Do you really want to know? She thought about her conditions, about wanting honesty. Yes, I'll have a conversation with him, give him a choice, return what he stole and leave the city, or face consequences that are considerably less pleasant. His tone was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. Most people choose to leave, and if he doesn't, then Victor pays him a visit, and the problem solves itself. Ria's stomach turned, but she kept her expression neutral. That's not legal. No, it's not. You wanted honesty, Ria. This is what honesty looks like in my world. He closed his laptop. Does it change things? Knowing what happens when people cross me? She wanted to say yes, wanted to be horrified, to walk away from this deal before she got in any deeper, but the truth was more complicated. I don't know, she said finally. Ask me again in a month. Something that might have been respect crossed his face. Fair enough. 3 weeks into her new role, Ria was working late in the small office Volkov had given her, a converted study in the east wing of his estate, when Victor appeared in the doorway. Miss Carter, there's a situation. She looked up from her computer. What kind of situation? The kind where Mr. Volkov needs you, now. Her heart kicked against her ribs. Is he hurt? No, but you should come. She followed Victor through the house to Volkov's private quarters, a section she'd never entered before. He knocked once, then opened the door to what looked like a control room. Multiple monitors showing security feeds, maps, data streams. Volkov stood in the center, phone pressed to his ear, his expression darker than she'd ever seen it. I don't care what it costs, he said into the phone. Find them. I want names, locations, and I want them yesterday. He hung up and noticed Ria. You shouldn't be here. Victor brought me. Victor was wrong. But he didn't send her away. Instead, he gestured to one of the monitors. Someone leaked information about a shipment, $50,000 worth of electronics stolen from one of my warehouses. The theft itself isn't the problem, it's that they knew exactly when and where to hit. Inside job, Ria said, moving closer to study the security feeds. Yes, which means I have a traitor in my organization. His jaw was tight with controlled fury. Someone close enough to know schedules, security codes, routes. How many people have that access? 12. 13 if you count yourself. She blinked. You think I... No. He cut her off sharply. You're the only person I trust right now. Everyone else is suspect. The weight of that statement settled over her. 3 weeks, and somehow she'd become the person he trusted most. It was terrifying and intoxicating in equal measure. Let me help, she said. This isn't managing restaurants, Rhea. This is dangerous. I'm already in danger. You said so yourself. She pulled up a chair sitting in front of the monitors. Show me the data. Let me look for patterns. He hesitated, then pulled up files on the main screen. Personnel records, shipment logs, security reports. Rhea absorbed it all, her mind working through the information like she was solving a puzzle. After 2 hours, she found it. There, she said, pointing to a series of timestamps. Marcus Chen, your warehouse supervisor. Look at the login times for the security system. He's accessing it at odd hours, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., but only on nights when there's no scheduled shipment. He could be checking on things, except he never does that for actual shipment nights, only the quiet nights. She pulled up more data. And look at his financial records. 3 large cash deposits in the last 2 months, each right after one of these odd-hour logins. Volkov leaned over her shoulder, studying the screen. She could feel the heat of him, the tension radiating off his body. He's selling information, Volkov said quietly, telling rivals when we're vulnerable, when our security is lightest. That's my guess. He straightened, pulling out his phone. Victor, bring Marcus Chen to the estate, now. I don't care if he's sleeping. Bring him. He hung up and looked at Rhea, something fierce and approving in his gaze. You found him. In 2 hours, you found what my security team couldn't find in 3 days. I just looked at the numbers. You saw the pattern, the truth hidden in the data. He moved to pour himself a drink from the bar in the corner. That's a rare skill, Rhea. Dangerous and rare. What happens now? Now I have a conversation with Marcus Chen, and you go back to your apartment and forget this happened. No. He turned, whiskey glass in hand. Excuse me? You said I'm the only person you trust, that I'm not a suspect, so I'm not leaving. She stood facing him across the room. I found the traitor. I deserve to see how this ends. Rhea, what I'm going to do to him, I know. I'm not naive. Her voice was steady, even though her heart was racing. You're going to hurt him, maybe kill him. And I should be horrified, should want to run away and pretend I don't know. But I can't keep existing in this half state, working for you but pretending I don't know what you really do. Volkov was very still. If you see this, you can't unsee it. You'll be complicit. An accessory. Then make me complicit. Stop trying to protect me from the truth. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Volkov downed his whiskey in one swallow and set the glass down with a sharp click. All right, he said, but you stay in this room. You watch on the monitors. You don't come downstairs, you don't interfere. You don't try to stop what happens. Understood? Understood. 30 minutes later, Victor returned with Marcus Chen, a balding man in his 40s, confused and frightened, still in his pajamas. They brought him to the basement level, a space Rhea had never seen on any tour of the estate. The monitor showed a bare concrete room with a single chair in the center, no windows, one door, nothing else. They put Marcus in the chair. Volkov entered, still in his dress shirt and slacks, looking calm and controlled. Rhea turned up the audio feed. Marcus, Volkov said pleasantly, thank you for coming. Mr. Volkov, I don't understand. It's 4 a.m. What's this about? I think you know what this is about. Volkov circled the chair slowly. You've been selling information to my competitors. Warehouse schedules, security protocols, shipment details. Marcus's face went white. I would never. Don't lie to me. I have the proof. Bank deposits matching exactly with the dates you accessed our systems at unusual hours. Communications traced to known rivals. Volkov stopped in front of him. The evidence is overwhelming. It was just a few times. They approached me, offered money. My daughter needs surgery. I couldn't afford. I don't care about your reasons. Volkov's voice was cold, flat. You betrayed me. Compromised operations that put dozens of my people at risk. Because of you, we lost $50,000 in credibility with our suppliers. Please, Mr. Volkov, I'm sorry. I'll pay it back. I'll do anything. You're right. You will. What happened next made Ria's stomach turn. Volkov didn't raise his voice, didn't lose control. He was methodical, precise, asking questions and receiving answers punctuated by sounds that made her flinch. She forced herself to watch, to not look away. This was the reality of the world she'd entered. This was the cost of her new life. After 20 minutes, Volkov emerged, his shirt spattered with blood, his expression neutral. He came back to the control room, found Ria still sitting there, and stopped. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Is he alive?" "Yes. Victor is taking him to the hospital. He'll recover, physically, but he won't work in this city again." Volkov moved to the bar, poured another whiskey. His hands were steady. "I gave him a choice. Tell me everything. Names, contacts, how long it's been going on, or face worse. He chose to talk. And now? Now he leaves the city with his family. I pay for his daughter's surgery. And in exchange, he never speaks of this, never returns, never contacts any of my rivals again." He drank. "Mercy and cruelty, Ria. That's how you maintain control." She stood on shaking legs. "You terrified him into compliance, then showed kindness. Made him grateful for the mercy while ensuring he's too afraid to betray you again." "Yes." He watched her carefully. "Does that change things?" She thought about it. Really thought about it. The violence had been calculated, purposeful, not sadistic. And Volkov had ultimately spared the man's life, even helped his family. It was monstrous. It was effective. And it was exactly what he'd promised her. Honesty about who he was and what he did. "I don't know yet," she said finally, "but I'm still here." Something shifted in Volkov's expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. "You should go home. Get some sleep." "So should you." "I don't sleep well anymore." He set down the glass. "Too many enemies. Too many people who want me dead." "Like the ones who attacked Marcello's?" "Exactly like them." He was quiet for a moment. "That's why I need people I can trust, Ria. People who can see the truth and not run from it. You passed a test tonight that most people would have failed." "What test?" "The test of seeing who I really am and still choosing to stay." She moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I think there's more to you than this, than the violence and control." "What makes you think that?" "Because you're still trying to protect me, even from yourself." She looked back at him. A true monster wouldn't care. She left before he could respond, but she felt his eyes on her all the way down the hall. The next morning, she found an envelope on her desk. Inside was a new contract, doubling her salary and adding a clause that made her assistant director of operations for all Volkov's legitimate holdings. At the bottom, in Volkov's precise handwriting, was a single line. "You earned this. A.V." Ria sat in her office, the contract in her hands, and realized she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. She wasn't just working for Adrian Volkov anymore. She was becoming part of his world. And the terrifying thing was, she wasn't sure she wanted to leave. 6 months into her new role, Ria had reorganized 3 failing businesses, identified 2 more information leaks, and somehow became the person Adrian Volkov consulted before making major decisions. She sat in on meetings with lawyers, accountants, and men whose faces she'd seen on wanted posters. She reviewed contracts for legitimate real estate deals and looked the other way when shipments arrived at odd hours with no paperwork. The line between right and wrong had become so blurred she could barely see it anymore. Danny noticed the change in her. They had dinner together most nights. She insisted on it, clinging to that small piece of normalcy, and he'd watch her with worried eyes as she pushed food around her plate, her mind elsewhere. "You're different," he said one evening, 3 weeks before everything fell apart. "I'm tired," she replied, which was true, but not the whole truth. "No, it's more than that. You're harder now, colder." He set down his fork. "Last week I asked you about that news story, the warehouse fire on the north side. And you didn't even react. 3 people died, Ria." "I know." "It was one of Volkov's warehouses, and you knew about it before it hit the news, didn't you?" She met his eyes, saw the fear and disappointment there. "Yes." "Was it him? Did he—" "No. It was a rival organization sending a message." She picked up her wine glass, took a long drink. Adrian lost $1 million in inventory and 2 employees. The third victim was a firefighter. Adrian? Danny's eyebrows rose. You call him Adrian now? She hadn't even noticed she'd done it. Somewhere along the way, Volkov had become Adrian in her mind. Not the terrifying crime boss. Not the man who broke people in basement rooms. Just Adrian, who drank his coffee black and worked 18-hour days and sometimes looked at her like she was the only real thing in his artificial world. It's his name, she said defensively. It's what people who are close to him call him. Danny stood, carrying his plate to the sink. I'm worried about you. You're in too deep. I'm fine. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're working for a criminal, covering up crimes, and starting to talk like violence is just the cost of doing business. It is the cost, she snapped, then immediately regretted it. Danny, I'm sorry. You just what? You like it there? You like being part of his world? The question hung in the air between them, sharp and accusatory. Rhea wanted to deny it, to say she was only doing this for the money, for Danny's medication, for their survival. But that would be a lie. The truth was more complicated. She did like the work, the challenge of it, the way her brain came alive solving problems that others couldn't crack. She liked being good at something, being valued, being more than just another exhausted waitress grinding through double shifts. And she liked Adrian, which was the most terrifying truth of all. I'm keeping us safe, she said finally. That's all that matters. Danny looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. I hope you're right. He went to his room, and Rhea sat alone at the table, staring at her reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back at her wore expensive clothes and carried herself with confidence she'd never had before. She barely recognized herself. 2 days later, Adrian summoned her to the estate for an emergency meeting. She arrived at 10 p.m. to find his office crowded with people, Victor, Irina, 3 men she didn't recognize, and Adrian himself standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what you have to do, he said into the phone. Find the leak and plug it, permanently. He hung up and turned to the room. We have a problem. Someone inside this organization has been feeding information to the Kozlov family for the past 3 months. The Kozlovs. Rhea had heard the name whispered in meetings, always with fear and respect. They controlled the eastern part of the city, ran operations that made Adrian's empire look tame by comparison. How do you know? Victor asked. Because they hit 3 of our operations this week. Different locations, different products, but all of them places only someone with high-level access would know about. Adrian's expression was carved from ice. Someone in this room, or someone close to us, is a traitor. Everyone started talking at once, denying involvement, pointing fingers. Rhea stayed quiet, her mind already working through possibilities. Adrian's eyes found hers across the room. Rhea, your thoughts? All conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look at her, the newest member of the inner circle, the outsider who'd somehow become essential. Show me the operations that were hit, she said. Dates, times, what was taken. Adrian pulled up a digital file on the large screen behind his desk. 3 incidents, a shipment of pharmaceuticals stolen from a delivery truck, a cash deposit intercepted between 2 of his clubs, and sensitive documents taken from a lawyer's office. Rhea studied the information, looking for patterns. Who knew about all 3 of these operations? Everyone in this room, one of the men said. And their direct reports. That's at least 30 people. She moved closer to the screen. But look at the timing. The truck was hit exactly 20 minutes after it left the warehouse. The cash deposit was intercepted during a 15-minute window between clubs. The documents were taken while the lawyer was at lunch. So? Victor growled. So whoever gave them this information didn't just know about the operations. They knew the exact timing, the routes, the schedules. She turned to Adrian. That level of detail is only in the digital system, your secure server. His jaw tightened. Only 7 people have access to that server. Everyone in this room, plus Dmitry and Alexei. Where are Dmitry and Alexei? Rhea asked. Dmitry is in Chicago on business. Alexei is... Adrian checked his phone. Supposed to be here. He was scheduled for this meeting. Silence fell over the room like a blanket. Call him, Victor said. Adrian dialed. The phone rang 6 times, then went to voicemail. He tried again, same result. Victor, take 2 men and go to Alexei's apartment. Now. Adrian's voice was deadly calm. Bring him back here, willing or not. Victor nodded and left, taking 2 of the guards with him. The remaining people shifted nervously, avoiding eye contact with each other. Ria moved to Adrian's side, lowering her voice. What do you know about Alexei? He's been with me for 5 years. Loyal, efficient, never given me a reason to doubt him. Adrian's hands curled into fists. If he's the traitor, if he's been selling me out to the Kozlovs— He didn't finish the sentence, but Ria heard the rage beneath the words. The sense of betrayal that cut deeper than any business loss. Maybe there's an explanation, she offered, though she didn't believe it. There's always an explanation. The question is whether I'll accept it. He looked at her, and his expression softened slightly. You should go home. This is going to get ugly. I'm staying. I'm staying, she repeated firmly. You trust me, remember? That means I'm here for the ugly parts, too. Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went deeper than words. Then Adrian nodded once and turned back to the screen, studying the data with the focus of a predator tracking prey. 40 minutes later, Victor returned, alone. He's gone, Victor reported. Apartment cleared out, passport missing. His car is still in the garage, but his go bag is missing from the closet. He ran, Adrian said flatly. Looks like it. But boss, Victor hesitated. We found something, security footage from his building. You need to see this. He pulled out a tablet, queued up a video. The footage showed Alexei leaving his apartment building at 8 p.m. that evening, 3 hours before the meeting. He was carrying a duffel bag and looking around nervously, but that wasn't what made Ria's blood run cold. In the video, a car pulled up to the curb. Alexei got in, and before the door closed, she caught a glimpse of the driver, Irina. The room erupted into chaos. Guards reached for weapons. Victor started shouting questions. And Irina, sweet, efficient Irina, who'd welcomed Ria to the estate and managed Adrian's household for years, stood frozen in place, her face pale but composed. Everybody out, Adrian said, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Except Irina and Ria. Boss, you can't be alone with her, Victor protested. If she's working with Alexei, out, now. They left, reluctant and worried, closing the door behind them. The silence that followed was suffocating. Adrian stood perfectly still, watching Irina with eyes that promised violence. How long? 6 months, Irina said quietly. Her accent was thicker now, fear making her voice shake. They approached me 6 months ago. Said they would kill my daughter if I didn't help them. You have no daughter. I do, in Russia. She's 15. They found her, sent me pictures of her outside her school. Irina's composure cracked, tears sliding down her weathered face. What was I supposed to do? Let them kill my child? You were supposed to come to me, Adrian said, each word precise and cutting. You were supposed to trust that I could protect her. Instead, you betrayed me, put my entire organization at risk, and helped Alexei sell us out to the Kozlovs. I had no choice. There's always a choice. He moved closer, and Ria saw the effort it took for him to control his rage. Alexei, I understand. He's weak, greedy, always has been. But you, Irina, you've been family. I trusted you with my home, my schedule, my life. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Ria watched the exchange, her mind racing. This was different from Marcus Chen, different from the other traitors they'd uncovered. This was personal. This betrayal cut deep. Adrian, she said carefully. Maybe don't. He held up a hand, not looking away from Irina. This isn't a business decision, Ria. This is about loyalty, about trust, about the fact that this woman knew everything, my schedule, my security codes, the layout of this entire estate, and she gave it to my enemies. To save her daughter, Ria pressed. They threatened a child. I know. I understand the motivation, but understanding doesn't change the facts. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number. Victor, come back up. Bring zip ties. No, Ria said, stepping between them. There has to be another way. Adrian's eyes met hers, cold and furious. Move. No. Ria, this isn't a negotiation. She betrayed me. She compromised this entire organization. She put you at risk, put Danny at risk, put everyone I'm responsible for at risk. I know that, but killing her won't fix it. Ria's heart hammered against her ribs, but she held her ground. You said I was here to see the truth, to be part of this world. Fine. Then listen to me. Irina made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but she did it to save her child. That's not greed or ambition. That's fear. Fear doesn't excuse betrayal. No, it doesn't. But it explains it. She glanced at Irina, who was watching this exchange with desperate hope. Send her away. Get her daughter out of Russia and somewhere safe. Then exile them both. She loses everything. Her job, her life here, her access to you. But she keeps her life and her daughter. The Kozlovs will just find her again. Not if you make it clear that she's no longer useful to them, that she's been cut off completely, has no information, no access, nothing they want. Adrian was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Victor knocked on the door, but Adrian ignored it. Why are you defending her? He asked Ria. Because she reminds me of myself 6 months ago, desperate and scared and willing to make dangerous choices to protect someone she loves. Ria moved closer, lowering her voice. You showed me mercy when you could have treated me as a liability. You gave me a chance to prove myself. Maybe she deserves the same. You saved my life. She sold it to my enemies. Under duress, there's a difference. Adrian studied her face, searching for something. Then he looked at Irina, who stood trembling against the wall. If I do this, he said slowly, if I let her live, it sets a precedent. It tells my people that betrayal can be forgiven, that there are circumstances where disloyalty won't be punished. It tells your people that you're strong enough to show mercy, that you value the reasons behind actions, not just the actions themselves. Ria held his gaze. That you're more than just fear and violence. The silence stretched out, taut and dangerous. Then Adrian pulled out his phone again. Victor, get Yuri Petrov on the phone. Tell him I need an extraction from Moscow. One 15-year-old girl, immediate priority. Paused. And book 2 tickets to Vancouver, one way. Irina collapsed against the wall, sobbing with relief. Victor appeared in the doorway, confused but following orders. Adrian pointed at Irina. You have 72 hours to disappear. I'm getting your daughter out and sending you both to Canada with enough money to start over. But if I ever see you again, if you ever contact anyone from this organization, if you ever speak my name to anyone, I will find you and I will finish what I should have done tonight. Are we clear? Yes, Irina choked out. Yes, thank you, thank you. Don't thank me, thank Ria. She's the only reason you're breathing. He turned away, dismissing her. Victor, take her to the guest house. Keep her under guard until the plane leaves. They left, Irina still crying, Victor looking baffled but obedient. When they were alone, Adrian turned to Ria. You're either very brave or very foolish. I haven't decided which. Probably both, she admitted, her hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. You challenged me, in front of a traitor, told me I was wrong. Was I? He moved to the bar, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. I don't know yet. Ask me in a year, see if this decision comes back to haunt me. He drank, his eyes never leaving her face. But you were right about one thing. I did show you mercy when we first met, and you've more than repaid that debt. I wasn't keeping score. I know, that's why it matters. He set down his glass. Alexei is still out there. He has information, contacts, probably a deal with the Kozlovs. That's a bigger problem. Do you know where he went? Not yet, but I will. His expression hardened. And when I find him, there won't be any mercy. Not this time. Ria sipped the whiskey, feeling it burn down her throat. What did Alexei have access to that makes him so dangerous? Everything. Security protocols, financial accounts, shipping routes, personnel files. Adrian pulled up a file on his computer. He was my second in command for operations. If the Kozlovs have even half of what he knows, they can dismantle my entire organization piece by piece. Then we need to change everything he had access to. New codes, new routes, new procedures. That'll take weeks and cost a fortune. It'll cost more if the Kozlovs use his information to destroy you. She moved to the computer, already thinking through logistics. Start Start with the most critical operations, the ones that would hurt you most if compromised. We lock those down first, then work our way through the rest. He watched her work, something like admiration in his eyes. You're not even slightly afraid, are you? Most people would be running for the door right now. Most people didn't grow up the way I did. She pulled up a spreadsheet, started making notes. You learn pretty quick that fear is expensive and action is cheap. Better to do something than sit around being scared. Rhea. He waited until she looked at him. Thank you. For Irina. For giving me a reason to be better than my worst instincts. You're welcome. She hesitated, then added, For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. We'll see. They worked through the night, restructuring security protocols and changing access codes. Rhea's brain felt like it was running on pure caffeine and adrenaline, but she couldn't stop. Every vulnerability they closed was one less weapon in the Kozlov's arsenal. At 4 a.m., Victor returned with news. We found Alexei, or rather we found his body. Adrian's head snapped up. What? The Kozlovs killed him, dumped him in the river with a bullet in his head. Victor's expression was grim. They left a message, said they don't negotiate with traitors, even ones who work for them. Rhea's stomach turned. They used him and threw him away. That's how the Kozlovs operate, Adrian said quietly. They don't believe in loose ends. He stood, moving to the window, which means they already have whatever information they wanted from him. They wouldn't kill him otherwise. So they know everything he knew, Rhea said. Every vulnerability, every weakness. Yes. Adrian's reflection in the glass looked tired, older, which means they'll be coming for me soon. And when they do, it won't be a random attack in a restaurant. It'll be calculated, precise, designed to hurt me where I'm weakest. Victor cleared his throat. Boss, maybe you should leave the city for a while. Let things cool down. If I run, I look weak, and weakness is blood in the water. Adrian turned from the window. No, I stay. We fortify defenses, we prepare for whatever's coming, and we show the Kozlovs that I'm not an easy target. They'll come after the estate, Rhea said suddenly. It's your base of operations, your home. If they want to make a statement, they'll hit you here. Adrian nodded slowly. You're right, which means we need to be ready. He looked at Victor. Double the guards, run security drills every day, and sweep every inch of this property for anything that doesn't belong. Already on it, boss. Good. And Victor? Adrian's voice dropped. If they do come, if they breach the estate, your first priority is getting Rhea and Danny out safely. No, Rhea protested. I'm not running while you fight. Yes, you are. Because if something happens to me, someone needs to be alive who knows how this organization works. Someone the others will trust to maintain order. He met her eyes. That's you, Rhea, whether you like it or not. The weight of that statement settled over her like a physical thing. Adrian wasn't just protecting her. He was preparing her to take over if he died. I don't want your empire, she said. I know. That's exactly why you should have it. He smiled faintly. People who want power are the worst ones to wield it. But people who take it out of necessity, who understand its cost, they're the ones who use it wisely. Before Rhea could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the estate. Red lights flashed. Victor's radio erupted with panicked voices. Breach at the east gate, someone shouted through the static. Multiple hostiles, armed, and gunfire erupted in the background, cutting off the transmission. Adrian's expression went cold and focused. They're here. Victor, Protocol 7, now. Victor ran from the room, shouting into his radio. Adrian moved to a panel on the wall, pressed his palm against it. A section of the bookshelf swung open, revealing an arsenal of weapons. Take this. He handed Rhea a handgun. Safety's here, point and pull. Don't hesitate if you need to use it. Her hands trembled as she took the weapon. I've never shot a gun before. Then let's hope you don't have to start tonight. He grabbed a rifle, checked the magazine with practiced efficiency. Stay behind me. We're going to the safe room in the basement. What about Danny? Already there. I sent Victor to get him 20 minutes ago, as soon as I knew something was wrong. Relief flooded through her. At least her brother was safe. More gunfire, closer now, shouting, the sound of breaking glass. Adrian moved to the door, weapon raised, every muscle tense and ready. "On three," he said. "Stay low, stay quiet, and for the love of everything, don't try to be a hero," says the man running toward danger. He flashed her a quick grin, fierce and wild. "I'm a professional. You're a civilian. Know the difference." Then he threw open the door and they ran into chaos. The hallway was filled with smoke and the acrid smell of gunfire. Adrian's guards were engaged in a firefight with masked figures at the far end of the corridor. Bullets tore through expensive paintings and shattered antique vases. Adrian fired 3 precise shots, and 2 of the attackers went down. He moved like he'd been born for this, every action fluid and controlled. Rhea followed, her heart in her throat, the gun heavy and foreign in her hands. They made it to the stairwell. Adrian checked the path, then pulled her down toward the basement. Behind them, the sounds of battle echoed through the estate. Shouts, gunfire, the crash of breaking furniture. The basement level was quieter, darker. Adrian led her through a maze of corridors to a heavy steel door with a biometric lock. He pressed his palm to the scanner. Nothing happened. He tried again. Still nothing. "Damn it!" He pulled out his phone, tried to override the system manually. "They must have hacked the security grid. The lock's not responding." "Can you shoot it open?" "Not without potentially damaging the mechanism. We'd be locked out permanently." He looked around, thinking fast. "There's another entrance through the wine cellar. Come on." They ran deeper into the basement, past storage rooms and maintenance equipment. Rhea's lungs burned. Her legs felt like jelly, but she kept moving, driven by pure adrenaline. Then she smelled it, something chemical and sharp. "Adrian," she said, "do you smell that?" He stopped, inhaling. His eyes widened. "Accelerant. They're going to burn the estate." He grabbed her arm, pulling her faster. "We need to get to Danny and get out, now!" They rounded a corner and nearly ran straight into one of the attackers. The man raised his gun. Adrian was faster, firing twice. The attacker fell, but his finger squeezed the trigger as he went down. The bullet caught Adrian in the shoulder, spinning him around. He grunted in pain but didn't fall, his training and sheer willpower keeping him upright. "Adrian!" Rhea caught him, saw blood blooming across his white shirt. "I'm fine. Keep moving." But his voice was strained, his face pale. They staggered through the wine cellar, past rows of expensive bottles, to another door. This one opened manually. Adrian shoved it wide and they stumbled into the safe room. Danny was there, huddled in the corner with 3 other guards. He jumped up when he saw them. "Rhea! Oh, Adrian's hurt." "I'm fine," Adrian said again, though he was bleeding heavily now. He moved to a control panel on the wall, started typing commands. "Victor, status report." Victor's voice crackled through the speaker. "East Wing is lost. They've set fires on the main level. We're falling back to the garage, trying to get the vehicles out." "How many hostiles?" "At least 20. Professional team, military training. This is the Kozlovs, boss. No question." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Get whoever you can to the garage. We're evacuating." He turned to Rhea. "There's a tunnel that leads from this room to a building 3 blocks away. Take Danny and these guards and run. Don't stop. Don't look back. Just run." "What about you?" "I'm staying. Someone needs to buy you time." "No." Rhea grabbed his uninjured arm. "You're coming with us." "Rhea, I can barely stand. I'll slow you down, and if the Kozlovs catch you because of me, then we all get caught together. I'm not leaving you." They stared at each other, the room filling with smoke from the fires above. Danny watched them with wide eyes. "You're so damn stubborn," Adrian said, but there was something like affection in his voice. "I learned from the best." She pulled his good arm over her shoulder, taking his weight. "Come on, we're getting out of here." One of the guards opened the tunnel entrance, a section of the wall that slid aside to reveal a dark passage. They could hear explosions now, the estate literally coming down around them. Adrian looked back one last time at the monitors showing his burning home, his crumbling empire. Then he turned his back on it all and let Rhea lead him into the darkness. Behind them, the estate that had stood for 20 years collapsed in fire and smoke, taking with it everything Adrian Volkov had built. But he was alive. And as they ran through the tunnel toward an uncertain future, Rhea realized something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She wasn't running away from the danger. She was running toward whatever came next, with Adrian by her side. And she wouldn't have it any other way. The tunnel opened into the basement of an abandoned factory, dust and rust coating every surface. Adrian collapsed against the wall the moment they emerged, his face gray with blood loss. Rhea caught him before he could fall, her hands coming away sticky and warm. "Danny, first aid kit," she barked. "There has to be one in here somewhere." Her brother and the guards scattered, searching the space while Rhea eased Adrian down to the concrete floor. His breathing was shallow, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. "Stay with me," she said, pressing her hands against his shoulder wound. Blood seeped between her fingers. "You don't get to die in some abandoned factory after everything we've been through." "Bossy," he murmured, his eyes fluttering closed. "Adrian, look at me." She grabbed his face with one bloody hand. "Look at me right now." His eyes opened, unfocused, but aware. "I'm looking." "Keep looking, keep talking. Tell me something, anything." "Like what?" "I don't know. Your favorite color, where you grew up, why you became a crime boss." She was babbling now, desperate to keep him conscious. "Just keep talking." "Blue," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "My favorite color is blue, like the ocean. I grew up in Queens, in a neighborhood where you learned to fight, where you died young." A pained smile crossed his face. "And I became what I am because someone had to. Because the world doesn't give you choices when you're poor and angry and smart enough to see all the ways the system is rigged against you." Danny returned with a dusty medical kit, dropping to his knees beside them. "I've got gauze and antiseptic. But Rhea, he needs a hospital." "Can't go to a hospital," one of the guards said. His name was Marcus, a young guy with sharp eyes and steadier hands than his age suggested. "They'll report a gunshot wound. Police will come asking questions." "Then he bleeds out here." Danny's voice rose in panic. "No." Rhea took the kit from him, her hands moving with a certainty she didn't feel. "We stop the bleeding, we stabilize him, and then we figure out our next move. Marcus, call Victor. Find out where the rest of the team is." She worked while Marcus made the call, packing the wound with gauze and wrapping it as tight as she dared. The bullet had gone through cleanly, missing anything vital, but he'd lost a lot of blood. Too much. Adrian watched her with hazy eyes. "You're good at this." "I'm terrified." "Doesn't show." His hand found hers squeezed weakly. "You're stronger than you think, Rhea Carter. Save your strength for staying alive." Marcus ended the call, his expression grim. "Victor made it out with 12 men. The estate is gone, burned to the foundation. They're regrouping at the warehouse on Pier 19. "How many did we lose?" Adrian asked, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. 7 confirmed dead. 5 missing, probably dead. 3 injured. Marcus hesitated. "Boss, the Kozlovs are claiming responsibility publicly. It's all over the news. They're saying this is just the beginning, that they're taking over your territory." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Like hell they are." "Adrian, you can barely stand," Rhea said. "You need to recover before you can fight back." "There's no time to recover. Every hour I'm weak, they're claiming more ground." He tried to sit up, grimaced, fell back. "Damn it." "Then let someone else handle it for now," she said. Victor is a soldier, not a general. He takes orders, he doesn't give them." Adrian's eyes found hers. "But you could." The room went silent. Everyone stared at her. "What?" Rhea asked. "You know the operations. You know the businesses, the contacts, the vulnerabilities. You've been running half my empire for months, whether you realized it or not." His grip on her hand tightened. "I trust you, Rhea, more than anyone else in this organization." "I'm not a crime boss. I'm not even a criminal. You're exactly what this organization needs right now. Someone smart enough to see the whole picture. Someone the others will listen to because they've seen you work." He looked at Marcus and the other guards. "Tell them. Tell them what she did when Marcus Chen was stealing from us, when Alexei betrayed us." Marcus nodded slowly. "She found patterns no one else saw, made connections between data points that seemed random. She's sharp, boss, real sharp." "I can't do this," Rhea protested. "I don't know the first thing about running a criminal empire." "You don't have to run it. You just have to hold it together until I can." Adrian's voice was getting weaker, exhaustion and blood loss dragging him under. "Please, Rhea, I'm asking you, help me." She looked at his pale face, at the blood soaking through the bandages, at the desperate hope in his eyes. Then she looked at Danny, who watched her with fear and something else, a kind of resigned acceptance, as if he'd known this moment was coming. "What do I have to do?" she asked quietly. Relief washed over Adrian's face. "Call a meeting, all the remaining lieutenants. Show them you're in charge until I'm back on my feet." His eyes started to close. "And Rhea? Don't let them push you around. You're worth 10 of them. Make them see it." Then he passed out, his hand going limp in hers. Rhea spent the next hour giving orders like she'd been born to it. She sent Marcus to arrange transportation to Pier 19. She had the other guards secure the perimeter and scout for any Kozlov surveillance. She got Danny to help her monitor Adrian's vitals, making sure he stayed stable. And through it all, her mind raced with possibilities and plans. By the time they arrived at the warehouse, word had spread. The remaining members of Adrian's organization gathered in the massive space, 30 men and women who looked at her with suspicion, curiosity, and barely concealed hostility. Victor was there, his face bruised from the fight at the estate. He helped carry Adrian to a makeshift medical station where a doctor who asked no questions was waiting. "He'll live," the doctor said after examining him, "but he needs rest, lots of it, and antibiotics to prevent infection." "How long until he's back on his feet?" Victor asked. "A week minimum, 2 to be safe." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A week was an eternity in their world. A week was enough time for the Kozlovs to dismantle everything Adrian had built. Rhea stepped forward, drawing every eye in the room. "Listen up," she said, her voice cutting through the whispers. "Adrian is alive and recovering. Until he's back, I'm in charge." The room exploded. "You?" A heavy-set man named Dmitri stepped forward. "You're a waitress who's been here 6 months. You don't give us orders." "Actually, she does," Victor's voice boomed across the warehouse. "Boss put her in charge before he passed out. That makes her temporary head of operations." "Since when do we take orders from civilians?" another voice shouted. Rhea waited for the noise to die down, then spoke again. "You're right. I'm not one of you. I didn't grow up in this life, didn't earn my place through violence or loyalty. But I've spent the last 6 months fixing your mistakes, finding your leaks, and keeping this organization profitable while you were too busy protecting your territory to see the bigger picture." She pulled up a tablet, projected images onto the wall behind her. Financial records, operational data, security reports. "Marcus Chen was stealing from you for 8 months before I caught him. Alexei sold you out to the Kozlovs for 6 months before I found the pattern. Irina compromised your security for even longer." She locked eyes with Dmitri. "Where were you when all this was happening? Where was your vaunted experience and street knowledge?" Dmitri's face reddened, but he had no answer. "The Kozlovs destroyed the estate tonight because they had inside information. They knew exactly when and where to hit, because Alexei gave them everything." Rhea's voice hardened. "They're celebrating right now, dividing up Adrian's territory like he's already dead. And if we don't act fast, if we don't show them we're still strong, they'll be right." "So what do you suggest?" a woman named Katya asked. She was older, sharp-eyed, one of Adrian's most trusted lieutenants. "We're wounded. We lost our base. The boss is down. How do we fight back?" Rhea had been thinking about this since the tunnel. "We don't fight. Not yet. First, we protect what we have left. Victor, I need guards on every remaining property. Double shifts, full security protocols. Marcus, work with our tech people to change every password, every access code, everything Alexei might have compromised." She turned to Katya. "You handle communications. Reach out to our allies, let them know Adrian is alive and we're still operational. Make it clear that anyone who tries to take advantage of this situation will regret it." Orders flowed from her like water, each one precise and purposeful. She divided responsibilities, assigned tasks, created a structure where there had been chaos. And slowly, grudgingly, the room started to respond. People nodded, pulled out phones, started moving with purpose instead of panic. Victor caught her eye across the warehouse and gave her a single nod of approval. 3 days later, Rio was running on caffeine and adrenaline, coordinating operations from a makeshift command center in the warehouse. Adrian was improving, strong enough to sit up and argue about her decisions, which she took as a good sign. "You're being too cautious," he said during one of their daily briefings. "The Kozlovs expect us to hide and lick our wounds. We should hit them while they're confident. We will, but not until we're ready. Ria didn't look up from the laptop. You taught me that everything is calculated. Rushing in angry is how people die. I also taught you that sometimes you have to take risks. Like jumping in front of bullets? She finally met his eyes. Because I seem to remember that working out pretty well. He smiled despite himself. Point taken. The door burst open. Victor strode in, his expression urgent. We've got a problem. The Kozlovs are hosting a gala tomorrow night. Black tie, high society, supposedly celebrating their expansion into new markets. So, Adrian asked. So our source inside their organization says it's a trap. They've invited every remaining member of your command structure. They're planning to take you all out in one night. Ria's blood ran cold. They think we'll all show up? They're counting on it. They know you're too proud to hide, too stubborn to back down. They're expecting you to walk right into their ambush. Victor pulled up a floor plan on his tablet. The gala is at the Meridian Hotel. Top floor, ballroom. They'll have shooters positioned throughout the building, exits blocked. Anyone who walks in won't walk out. Adrian's expression darkened. Then we don't go. We have to, Ria said suddenly. Everyone turned to stare at her. Are you insane? Danny burst out from the corner where he'd been quietly studying. They just told you it's a trap. I know it's a trap, but that means we know what they're planning. We have the advantage. Her mind was racing, pieces falling into place. They think they're hunting us. We turn it around, make them the prey. How? Victor asked, leaning forward with interest. Ria stood, moving to the whiteboard where they'd been tracking Kozlov movements. They're expecting Adrian's top people to show up, so we give them what they expect, but not what they want. She started drawing on the board. The Meridian has service entrances, kitchen access, maintenance corridors. They'll be watching the front entrance, maybe the parking garage. But they can't cover everything. You want to infiltrate through the service areas, Katya said slowly. Get people inside before the gala even starts. Exactly. We plant our own people throughout the building, disguised as staff, as security, as whoever we need to be. Then when the trap springs, we're already in position to spring one of our own. Adrian was sitting up now, pain forgotten, his eyes bright with approval. They'll have their shooters in the ballroom. Exits covered. But if we control the building's systems, power, communications, security cameras, we can blind them at the critical moment. Cut the lights, lock them in, turn their trap into their cage. Ria felt the plan crystallizing, becoming real. But there's a problem. Someone still has to walk into that ballroom. Someone they'll recognize. Someone important enough that they'll commit to the attack. Silence fell over the room as everyone realized what she was saying. No, Adrian said flatly. Absolutely not. It has to be someone they want badly enough to spring the trap for. Not a lieutenant, not a guard. Someone who represents the head of your organization. Then I'll do it, Victor said. I can pass for... They know you're a soldier. They won't commit for you. Ria's heart was pounding, but her voice stayed steady. It has to be me. I'm the one who's been running things since the estate burned. I'm the one who's been visible, giving orders, meeting with contacts. As far as the Kozlovs know, I'm Adrian's new second-in-command. You're not walking into an assassination attempt, Adrian said, his voice hard with authority. That's not negotiable. Everything is negotiable. She met his eyes across the room. You taught me that too. Sometimes you have to take risks. Sometimes you have to put yourself in the line of fire. This is different. How? Because I'm not you? Because I'm supposed to be protected? She moved closer to him, lowering her voice so only he could hear. You asked me to hold this organization together, to be strong, to lead. I can't do that from safety. I can't ask these people to follow me if I'm not willing to go into danger myself. His jaw tightened. I saved you so you wouldn't end up in situations like this. No, you saved me so I could be more than a victim, so I could choose my own path. She put her hand over his. Let me choose this. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then Adrian closed his eyes, the fight draining out of him. Fine, he said quietly, but you don't go in alone. Victor selects your security detail. Danny stays here under guard. And at the first sign that the plan is falling apart, you run. No heroics, no last stands. You run and you survive. Promise me." "I promise." He pulled her closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. "If anything happens to you, if they hurt you because of my enemies, my world, then you'll have trained me well enough that it won't happen." She squeezed his hand. "Trust me the way I trusted you." The next night, Rhea stood in front of a mirror in the warehouse's makeshift dressing area, barely recognizing herself. The dress was midnight blue, elegant and expensive, the kind of thing she'd only ever seen in magazines. Her hair was styled in a way that made her look older, more sophisticated, dangerous. Katya had done her makeup, transforming her from exhausted refugee to polished power player. "You look the part," the older woman said, stepping back to admire her work. "Now, you just have to play it. Any advice? Don't show fear. These people are predators. They smell weakness." Katya's expression softened slightly. "But you already know that. You've been living in their world for months now." Rhea touched the small earpiece hidden in her ear. "Testing. Can everyone hear me?" Loud and clear, Victor's voice came through. "Teams are in position. We've got people in the kitchen, maintenance, security stations. The power grid is ready to cut on your signal." "What's the signal?" "You say the word mercy. That's the code for everything to go dark." Rhea nodded, even though he couldn't see her. Mercy. The word felt heavy with irony. Adrian appeared in the doorway, leaning on a cane but looking stronger than he had days ago. He'd insisted on being here, against everyone's advice. "You don't have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do." She turned to face him. "How do I look?" "Like you could conquer the world." His eyes held hers. "Or destroy it." "Let's hope I only have to do one of those tonight." He crossed the room, moving carefully. When he reached her, he pulled something from his pocket, a small knife in an ornate sheath. "Keep this on you, hidden but accessible." She took it, felt the weight of it. "I thought we were avoiding violence." "We are. But if it finds you anyway, I want you prepared." He helped her strap it to her thigh, hidden beneath the dress. His hands lingered a moment longer than necessary. "Rhea, if this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, you need to know." He stopped, struggling with words that clearly didn't come easily. "You changed everything, the way I see this world, the way I operate in it. You made me want to be better than what I am." "Adrian, let me finish." His hand cupped her face gently. "If I lose you tonight, if my enemies take you from me, I will burn their entire organization to ash. I will show no mercy, no restraint. I will become the monster everyone thinks I am." "Then I guess I better survive," she said softly, "because the world doesn't need more monsters. It needs more people who are trying to be better." He kissed her then, sudden and fierce, pouring everything he couldn't say into that single moment. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "Come back alive," he said. "Count on it." The Meridian Hotel blazed with light, crystal chandeliers throwing prismatic patterns across walls decorated with gold leaf and marble. Rhea arrived in a black car, flanked by 2 guards playing the role of security detail. They passed through the front entrance while Victor's voice whispered updates in her ear. "Kitchen team in position. Maintenance team has control of the electrical room. Security team has eyes on all cameras." The ballroom was on the top floor, accessible only by a glass elevator that offered a stomach-dropping view of the city below. Rhea rode up with a dozen other guests, all of them dressed in expensive clothes and carrying themselves with the confidence of people who'd never known real fear. The elevator doors opened onto opulence. The ballroom was massive, all windows and white marble, with a live orchestra playing classical music. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It looked like a scene from a movie, beautiful and surreal. It also looked like a killing floor dressed up in silk and diamonds. Rhea counted exits as she entered. 2 main doors currently manned by security. Windows that didn't open. A service entrance behind the bar. That was it. Everyone in this room was trapped, whether they knew it or not. She accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, one of Victor's men, she noted with relief, and began to circulate. People watched her, whispered. She was new blood in an old game, and that made her fascinating. A man approached her, middle-aged and expensively dressed, with cold eyes and a calculating smile. She recognized him from the briefing photos. Alexei Kozlov, head of the family, architect of tonight's trap. "Miss Carter," he said smoothly, "I'm so pleased you could join us. I was worried Adrian's incident might have scared you off." "Adrian's incident," she repeated, her voice ice. "Is that what we're calling attempted murder now?" His smile widened. "I call it cleaning house. Your employer made enemies, Miss Carter. Dangerous enemies. Surely you understood the risks when you joined his organization." "I understand the risks perfectly." She sipped her champagne, maintained eye contact. "Do you?" Something flickered behind his eyes. Surprise, maybe, that she wasn't cowering. "You're very brave coming here tonight. Or very foolish. I've been told there's not much difference." "No, there isn't." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "Here's what's going to happen. In about 10 minutes, my men are going to seal this room. Everyone connected to Adrian Volkov will be identified and eliminated. The rest will be released with a message. The Kozlovs are in charge now. Resistance is futile. That's your master plan? Shock and awe? It's effective. And final." His eyes gleamed with malicious pleasure. "I'm telling you this as a courtesy. You seem smart, resourceful. Work for me instead, and you'll walk out of here alive. Refuse, and you'll be just another casualty." Ria let the moment stretch, appearing to consider. Then she smiled. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Kozlov, but I'm going to have to decline." "That's disappointing." "Is it?" "Because from where I'm standing, you're the one who should be disappointed." She set down her champagne glass. "You see, I know this is a trap. I've known since yesterday, and I came anyway." His expression shifted, confidence cracking. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" She touched her earpiece, making the gesture obvious. "Victor, how many of your people are in this building?" 23. Victor's voice came through clearly. "And how many of them are in positions to control critical systems?" "All of them." Kozlov's face went pale. He raised his hand, signaling to someone across the room. "Before you do that," Ria said quietly, "you should know that I have people in your security room, your electrical systems, your communications hub. One word from me and this entire building goes dark. Your men will be blind, trapped, vulnerable." "You're lying. Test me." For 3 heartbeats, they stood frozen. Then Kozlov's hand dropped to his side, reaching for something inside his jacket. Ria didn't hesitate. She grabbed his wrist with one hand while the other went to her thigh, retrieving the knife Adrian had given her. She pressed the blade against Kozlov's ribs, hidden from view by their proximity. "Don't," she said softly. "Don't make me use this." Around them, the party continued, oblivious. But Kozlov's guards had noticed the confrontation. They were moving closer, hands inside jackets. "Call them off," Ria said, "or I say the word, the lights go out, and this entire operation falls apart." Sweat beaded on Kozlov's forehead. "You won't. You'd be signing your own death warrant." "Maybe, but I'd take you with me, and your entire family would know you died because you underestimated a waitress." She pressed the knife harder. "Is your pride worth your life?" In her ear, Victor was shouting questions, asking for status. But Ria stayed focused on Kozlov, watching the calculation in his eyes. Finally, he raised his hand in a subtle gesture. His guards stopped advancing. "Smart choice," Ria said. "Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out of here with me, nice and calm, like we're old friends. You're going to tell your men to stand down. And then you're going to have a conversation with Adrian about territory, respect, and the consequences of burning someone's house down. You think Adrian is still a player in this city? He's finished. Broken. Is he? Because he's been running operations through me for days now, securing alliances, strengthening defenses, preparing for exactly this moment." She smiled coldly. "You destroyed his house, Mr. Kozlov, but you didn't destroy him, and that was your mistake." She could see the realization dawning in his eyes. He'd won a battle, but not the war. By coming after Adrian so aggressively, he'd only made him more dangerous. "Mercy," Ria said clearly into the microphone. The lights went out. Chaos erupted instantly. Screams filled the darkness. Glass shattered. Someone fired a gun. The muzzle flash bright and brief. But Ria was ready. She'd memorized the room's layout, knew exactly where the service exit was. She kept her grip on Kozlov, the knife still pressed to his ribs, and dragged him through the panicked crowd. Victor, I have the package. Moving to extraction point Alpha. Copy that. Team is clearing your path. They burst through the service door into a maintenance corridor. Emergency lights cast everything in red. Victor's people were there, weapons drawn, securing the route. Move, Victor barked. They ran downstairs through kitchens, past terrified staff hiding under counters. Behind them, Ria could hear Kozlov's men shouting, trying to organize a pursuit in the dark. But Victor's team had thought of everything. Locked doors slowed the pursuit. False trails led searchers in wrong directions. By the time they reached the parking garage, they had a full minute's lead. A van waited, engine running. Ria shoved Kozlov inside, climbed in after him. Victor jumped in the front as the driver peeled out. Did we lose anyone? Ria asked, breathing hard. 2 injuries, no deaths. Everyone else extracted clean. Victor looked back at her, something like respect in his eyes. You did it. You actually pulled it off. We pulled it off. She turned to Kozlov, who sat rigid with fury and fear. Now you're going to help us finish this. I'll tell you nothing. You don't have to tell us anything. You just have to be seen with us, alive, unharmed, negotiating. Ria's voice was cold and certain. By morning, every organization in the city will know that the Kozlovs couldn't even protect their own leader at his own event. That Adrian Volkov's people walked into your trap and walked out with you as a hostage. They'll never believe, they'll believe what they see. And what they're going to see is you sitting across a table from Adrian, working out terms of surrender. Kozlov's laugh was bitter. I'll never surrender to Volkov. Then you'll die, and your family will fracture fighting over who takes your place, and Adrian will pick up the pieces. She leaned forward. Or you can be smart. Keep your territory. Keep your operations. Just stay the hell away from ours. The van pulled up to the warehouse. Guards swarmed out, weapons ready. They pulled Kozlov from the vehicle and marched him inside. Adrian was waiting, standing without the cane now, looking every inch the dangerous man he was. When he saw Ria, whole and unharmed, relief flooded his face. You're insane, he said as she approached. I learned from you. That was the most reckless, dangerous, brilliant thing I've ever seen. You're welcome, she grinned despite the adrenaline still coursing through her. We have a guest who'd like to discuss terms. They sat Kozlov in a chair under bright lights, guards surrounding him. Adrian took the seat across from him, and Ria stood at his shoulder. Here's the deal, Adrian said. You keep your territory east of the river. We keep ours west. You don't interfere with our operations. We don't burn your assets to the ground. And if you ever come after me or mine again, I won't be as merciful as I'm being tonight. Merciful? Kozlov spat. You call kidnapping merciful? I call letting you live merciful. Ask the last 5 people who tried to kill me how that worked out for them. Adrian's voice was ice and iron. Oh, wait, you can't, because they're dead. And if I refuse your terms? Then my associate here uses that knife she's been carrying. I dispose of your body in a way that ensures no one ever finds it. And I spend the next month systematically dismantling everything you've built, piece by piece, until the Kozlov name means nothing. Silence stretched between them, heavy with threat and possibility. Or, Ria said quietly, you accept that you made a mistake, that you underestimated your opponent, and you take the generous terms you're being offered while they're still on the table. Kozlov looked between them, seeing the truth in their eyes. They would do it. They would kill him without hesitation if he refused. Fine, he said finally. We have a deal. Put it in writing, Adrian said. Victor produced a document, already prepared. Sign here, and an initial here. Kozlov signed, each stroke of the pen an admission of defeat. When it was done, Adrian stood. Let him go. Drive him back to his territory and make sure he gets there safely. Kozlov was pulled to his feet, escorted toward the door. But he stopped, looked back at Ria. You're wasted on him, he said. You could have your own empire. I'm not interested in empires, she replied, just in making sure the right people survive. After he was gone, the warehouse erupted in celebration. Victor broke out bottles of expensive vodka. People laughed and shouted and relived the night's events with increasing embellishment. But Ria found herself drawn to the quiet corner where Adrian stood alone, watching his people celebrate. "We won," she said, joining him. "You won. I was barely conscious for most of it. You trained me, trusted me. That's winning." She bumped his shoulder with hers. "We make a good team." "We do." He looked at her, and his expression was complicated, pride and fear and something deeper. "You could have died tonight if anything had gone wrong, but it didn't. We planned well. We executed better. And now we're here, alive, with our enemies neutralized and our position stronger than before. Until the next crisis, the next attack, the next impossible situation." His voice was quiet. "This life doesn't stop, Rhea. There's always another threat, another enemy, another fight." "I know." She took his hand, laced their fingers together. "But we'll face them together, like we faced tonight." He pulled her closer, and she rested her head against his shoulder, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Around them, the celebration continued, but in their small corner of the warehouse, there was only quiet and the steady beat of two hearts that had survived another impossible night. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we rebuild. Stronger than before, smarter, with you at my side instead of in the shadows." "As what? Your assistant? Your second in command?" "As my partner." He tilted her face up to meet his eyes. "If you want it. No obligation, no debt, just a choice." Rhea thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, working double shifts and running on fumes. That girl would have run from this offer, would have seen the danger and chosen safety. But she wasn't that girl anymore. "I want it," she said. "I want this." His kiss was gentle this time, not desperate or fierce, but certain. A promise of partnership and power, and a future they would build together. When they finally broke apart, Danny was watching from across the warehouse, his expression unreadable. Rhea met his eyes, saw the question there. Later, she would talk to him, would make sure he understood that this was her choice, her path, would promise to protect him even as she dove deeper into this dangerous world. But for now, she just nodded once, and after a moment, he nodded back. The girl who didn't bow had become the woman who stood equal, and the feared table that had started everything was about to become something new entirely. The dawn came cold and gray, filtering through the warehouse windows in pale strips of light. Rhea stood on the loading dock watching the city wake up, a cup of coffee warming her hands. She hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. Her mind was still racing with everything that had happened, everything that had changed. Behind her, the warehouse had finally quieted. The celebration had wound down around 3 a.m., leaving exhausted guards sleeping on cots and empty vodka bottles scattered across tables. Victor had stationed sentries at every entrance despite the late hour and the victory. "Old habits," he'd said, "the kind that keep you alive. You should rest." Adrian's voice came from the doorway. He moved carefully, still favoring his injured shoulder, but looking stronger than he had any right to after being shot 3 days ago. "So should you." "I've been resting. Doctor's orders." He joined her at the edge of the dock, close enough that their shoulders touched. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything. Nothing." She took a sip of coffee, bitter and strong. "Wondering when I became the kind of person who holds a knife to someone's ribs and threatens them without flinching. Regrets?" She thought about it, really thought about it. 6 months ago, the idea of threatening anyone would have horrified her. Now it felt like just another tool in an arsenal she'd learned to wield with precision. "No," she said finally. "Just awareness. I'm different now. I look at problems and my first thought is how to neutralize them, not how to avoid them. That's not who I used to be." "People change, especially when circumstances force them to." "Is that what happened to you? Circumstances forced you into this life?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the city skyline. "I was 15 when my father was killed. Robbery gone wrong, they said. But I knew better. He'd refused to pay protection money to the local gang, and they made an example of him." His jaw tightened. "I could have walked away. Could have finished school, gone to college, built a normal life. But I couldn't stop thinking about how powerless I'd been, how the system that was supposed to protect us just filed a report and moved on. So you took power for yourself." "I took survival. Everything else came later." He looked at her. "But you're not me, Rhea. You still have choices I never had. You could walk away from this. Take Danny, move somewhere quiet, live the life you were supposed to have. Could I? She set down her coffee cup. After tonight, after everything I've done and seen and become, the Kozlovs know my name, your allies know my face. I'm part of this world now, whether I want to be or not. Then the question becomes, what do you want to do with that? Before she could answer, Victor appeared, his expression urgent. Boss, we have a situation. The police are asking questions about last night. Multiple witnesses at the Meridian reported gunfire, a blackout, and mass confusion. They're calling it a possible terrorist incident. Adrian swore under his breath. How much do they know? Nothing concrete, but they're pressuring the hotel for security footage, interviewing staff, building a timeline. Victor's face was grim. It's only a matter of time before someone connects it to the Kozlovs, and once they do that, they'll start looking at you. Let them look. They won't find anything. Adrian moved back inside, and Rhea followed. We weren't there. We have alibis, and the Kozlovs sure as hell won't cooperate with any investigation. What about the staff we planted? Rhea asked. The people in the kitchen, maintenance, security rooms? All legitimate contractors hired through 3 different shell companies. Even if the police track them down, they'll just say they were doing their jobs. Victor pulled up security footage on a laptop. But we have a bigger problem. Someone leaked photos to the media. Social media is exploding with speculation about organized crime, territory wars, the whole thing. He turned the laptop so they could see. Photos of the darkened ballroom, panicked guests, and one grainy shot that made Rhea's heart stop. Her and Kozlov in the parking garage, her hand on his arm, guards surrounding them. That looks like a kidnapping, she said. Because it was a kidnapping, Victor replied. The question is whether anyone can prove it. Adrian studied the photos with calculating eyes. Who took these? Unknown. Could have been security cameras we missed, could have been someone with a phone. Either way, they're out there now. Rhea's mind was already working through possibilities. We need to control the narrative. If we let the media speculate, they'll invent something worse than the truth. What do you suggest? We go public. Not with everything, but with a version of events that makes sense. She pulled out her own phone, started typing notes. The Kozlovs hosted a gala to celebrate a business merger. There was a power outage. Mechanical failure happens at old buildings. Some guests panicked. No one was hurt. Just an unfortunate incident that got blown out of proportion. And the photos of you with Kozlov? Victor asked. Business associates leaving together after the event was canceled. Nothing sinister, just 2 people who happened to know each other. She looked at Adrian. But we need Kozlov to confirm the story. If he contradicts us, the whole thing falls apart. He won't contradict us, Adrian said with certainty, because doing so would mean admitting he got taken from his own event by a rival organization. That kind of embarrassment would destroy his credibility. So we're counting on his pride to keep him quiet? His pride and his survival instinct. He signed a peace treaty last night. Breaking it would be, unwise. The next 48 hours were a blur of damage control and strategic positioning. Rhea coordinated with Adrian's lawyers to craft official statements. She reached out to friendly journalists to plan alternative narratives. She even arranged for several prominent business leaders to publicly praise the supposed merger between Volkov and Kozlov interests, lending legitimacy to the cover story. And through it all, she felt herself settling into a role she'd never imagined wanting. Not just Adrian's partner, but a power player in her own right. Someone people listened to because she'd proven she could think 3 steps ahead and execute plans others considered impossible. On the 3rd day after the gala, Danny cornered her in the small office she'd claimed at the warehouse. We need to talk, he said, closing the door behind him. Rhea looked up from the laptop where she'd been reviewing financial reports. What's wrong? What's wrong? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Rhea, you held a knife to a crime boss 3 nights ago. You orchestrated a blackout that could have gotten people killed. You kidnapped someone and forced them to sign a treaty. And you're asking me what's wrong. I know it sounds bad when you list it like that. It is bad. This whole situation is bad. He started pacing, agitated energy rolling off him in waves. I've been watching you change for months now. Watched you go from my sister who worked double shifts to survive to someone who casually discusses violence like it's a business strategy. Danny, I'm not done. He stopped, faced her directly. I love you. You're the only family I have left, and you've sacrificed everything to take care of me. But I can't watch you disappear into this world. Can't watch you become someone I don't recognize. The words hit harder than any physical blow, because he was right. She had changed. The question was whether that change was worth the cost. So what do you want me to do? She asked quietly. Walk away? Pretend the last 6 months didn't happen? I want you to be honest with yourself about why you're staying. He moved closer, his young face serious beyond his years. Are you here because you have no choice? Or are you here because you like it? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Because if you're trapped, we can figure out how to get you free. But if you're choosing this, he trailed off, pain evident in his eyes. Then I need to know that too. Ria stood, moved to the window overlooking the warehouse floor. Below, she could see Victor training a group of new recruits, Katya reviewing inventory lists with 2 lieutenants, Marcus coordinating security schedules, all of it running smoothly because she'd built systems that worked. I like it, she admitted, the words tasting like truth and betrayal at once. I like being good at something. I like solving impossible problems. I like the way people look at me now, not with pity or dismissal, but with respect. With fear sometimes, but also with the knowledge that I earned my place here. By threatening people, by working for a criminal, by being smarter than everyone else in the room, by seeing patterns no one else sees, by refusing to be a victim. She turned back to him. You want honesty? Here it is. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. That girl who served tables and apologized for existing, she's gone, and I don't miss her. Danny's expression crumpled. So that's it? You're just going to become one of them? I already am one of them. The only question is what I do with that. She crossed to him, took his hands. Danny, I need you to understand something. This world, Adrian's world, it exists whether I'm part of it or not. Criminal organizations, territory wars, violence, dressed up in expensive suits. It's all happening, all the time, and most people just pretend it doesn't exist. That's not an excuse. I'm not making excuses. I'm explaining reality. Her grip tightened. But here's the thing. If I'm going to be part of this world anyway, if my name is already on lists and my face is already known, then I'd rather be someone who matters. Someone with power and agency. Not someone hiding in the shadows, hoping the monsters don't notice her. Even if it means becoming a monster yourself? The question hung between them, sharp and impossible to answer simply. I don't know, she said finally. Ask me in a year. Ask me in 5 years. Maybe by then I'll have an answer. He pulled his hands free, stepped back. I start a summer internship at the hospital next week. Real medical work, real patients. A chance to build the life I actually want. His voice cracked slightly. I'm not asking you to choose between me and Adrian, but I'm asking you to think about who you want to be. Not who you have to be, who you choose to be. He left before she could respond, the door closing with a soft click that felt like something ending. Ria stood alone in the office, her reflection in the dark window showing a woman in expensive clothes with hard eyes and a straight spine. A woman who looked like she belonged in this world of power and violence. She wondered if that woman was someone her parents would recognize, if they'd be proud or horrified by what their daughter had become. The door opened again, Adrian this time, reading the tension in her posture immediately. Bad conversation with Danny? He asked. Honest conversation, which is somehow worse. She didn't turn from the window. He thinks I'm losing myself, becoming someone I'm not. Are you? I don't know. How do you know when you've changed too much? When you've crossed too many lines to go back? Adrian moved to stand beside her, their reflections side by side in the glass. You don't go back. That's the secret no one tells you. You just keep moving forward and hope that the person you're becoming is someone you can live with. And can you? Live with who you've become? He considered this, his expression thoughtful. Most days, yes, because I know why I made the choices I made. I know what I've built and who I've protected. He glanced at her. But there are moments, usually at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep, where I wonder what my life would have looked like if I'd made different choices. If I'd walked away when I still could. Do you regret it? No, because regret implies I had better options, and I didn't. Just different ones, each with their own cost. He turned to face her fully. But you do have options, Rhea. Real ones. You could walk away from this. I'd make sure you and Danny were protected, set you up somewhere safe with enough money to start fresh. You could build that normal life Danny wants for you, and leave you to face whatever comes next alone. I've been alone most of my life. I can handle it. She finally looked at him, saw the truth in his eyes. He meant it. He would let her go if she wanted, would sacrifice his own wants for her freedom, and that generosity made her decision easier. I'm not leaving, she said, not because I'm trapped or obligated, because I choose this. Choose you. Choose the power and the danger and the impossible situations we keep surviving together. Rhea, let me finish. She stepped closer, closing the distance between them. Danny's right that I've changed, but change isn't always bad. The girl I was 6 months ago? She was barely surviving, working herself to exhaustion just to keep her head above water. But this woman I'm becoming, she's building something, creating systems and structures that work, making decisions that matter. Even if those decisions involve violence? Even then. Because I've learned that violence is just another tool. It can be used carelessly, or it can be used with precision and purpose. And if I'm going to wield it, I'd rather do it consciously than pretend it doesn't exist. Adrian searched her face, looking for doubt or hesitation. You're sure about this? About choosing this life? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her then, fierce and claiming, and she kissed him back with equal intensity. This wasn't the gentle promise of partnership from 3 nights ago. This was acceptance of everything they were and everything they would become together. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Then we do this right. No more hiding in the shadows, pretending you're just an employee. We make it official. Official how? I'm calling a meeting. Every lieutenant, every ally, every person connected to this organization, and I'm introducing you as my equal partner, co-head of operations, someone with full authority to make decisions and give orders. They'll never accept it. Half of them still see me as an outsider. They'll accept it because they saw what you did at the Meridian. They saw you walk into a trap and turn it around. They saw you force Alexei Kozlov to negotiate from a position of weakness. His eyes gleamed with fierce pride. You earned their respect the hard way. Now we make it official. The meeting was held at one of Adrian's nightclubs, an upscale venue called Eclipse that occupied 3 floors of a renovated warehouse. The top floor had been converted into a private meeting space with a massive table that could seat 30 people. Every seat was filled. Rhea recognized most of the faces. Lieutenants who controlled various territories, business managers who ran legitimate operations, specialists in security and logistics and finance. The core of Adrian's organization gathered in one room for the first time since the estate burned. She stood at Adrian's side wearing a charcoal suit that Katya had helped her select. Professional, authoritative, the kind of outfit that commanded respect. Her hair was pulled back, makeup minimal, every detail calculated to present strength and competence. Adrian called the meeting to order, his voice cutting through the various conversations. Thank you all for coming. I know the last week has been chaotic, but we've emerged stronger than before. The Kozlovs have signed a non-aggression treaty. Our territories are secure. Our operations are back to full capacity. Murmurs of approval rippled through the room. We accomplished this, Adrian continued, largely due to the efforts of one person. Someone who held this organization together while I was recovering. Someone who saw opportunities where others saw only threats. Someone who earned her place at this table through intelligence, courage, and results. All eyes turned to Rhea. Effective immediately, Adrian said. Rhea Carter is my equal partner in all operations. She has full authority to make decisions, allocate resources, and represent this organization in any capacity. What she says carries the same weight as my own words. Is that understood? Silence fell over the room. Rhea could see the calculation in every face, weighing the announcement, measuring their response, deciding how to navigate this new reality. Dmitri was the first to speak, the same heavy-set man who'd challenged her at the warehouse. With all respect, boss, she's been here 6 months. Some of us have been with you for years. Decades, in some cases. How do we know she won't make decisions that put our operations at risk? Because she's already proven herself, Victor said before Adrian could respond. The big man stood, addressing the room. I've worked with Ria on multiple operations. She thinks strategically, acts decisively, and gets results. She found Marcus Chen when he was stealing from us. She identified Alexei's betrayal, and she orchestrated the Meridian operation that could have gotten us all killed but instead ended with a peace treaty. She also saved Adrian's life, Katya added, twice. That counts for something. It counts for loyalty to Adrian, another lieutenant said, not necessarily to the organization. Loyalty to me is loyalty to the organization, Adrian said sharply. I built this from nothing. Every territory, every business, every alliance exists because I made it happen. And I'm telling you that Ria has earned the right to stand beside me. If you can't accept that, there's the door. The challenge hung in the air, clear and unmistakable. Accept the new order or leave. Ria watched faces around the table, saw resistance warring with pragmatism. These were people who'd survived in a dangerous world by knowing when to fight and when to adapt. And right now, adapting meant accepting her. One by one, they nodded their acceptance. Some grudging, some genuine, all acknowledging the reality before them. Dmitri was the last, his expression sour but resigned. Fine, but if she makes decisions that hurt my territory, we're going to have words. Fair enough, Ria said, speaking for the first time. And if your territory creates problems for the organization, we're going to have more than words. This partnership goes both ways. Adrian and I support you, but we expect loyalty and competence in return. She let her gaze sweep the table, making eye contact with each person. I know most of you don't trust me yet. I'm new, I'm young, I'm not from this world, but I've spent 6 months learning how this organization works. I've fixed your problems, closed your leaks, and turned your failures into successes. So here's what I'm offering. Work with me, and I'll make you more profitable and more secure than you've ever been. Fight me, and you'll find out exactly how I handled every other obstacle in my path. The threat was subtle but unmistakable, and judging by the shifted postures and exchanged glances, everyone heard it. Now then, Adrian said, moving the meeting forward. Let's discuss territory redistribution. With the Kozlov Treaty in place, we have opportunities to expand into neutral zones. The meeting continued for 3 hours, covering operations and finances and strategic planning. And through it all, Ria contributed equally with Adrian, suggesting improvements, questioning assumptions, making decisions that others accepted without challenge. She'd done it, claimed her place at the table through competence and courage. When the meeting finally ended, people lingered to speak with her individually. Katya offered congratulations tinged with maternal pride. Victor gave her a respectful nod that meant more than words. Even Dmitri grudgingly admitted that her idea for restructuring his territory's security made sense. Only Marcus approached with something other than business on his mind. Miss Carter, he said quietly, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever worry about losing yourself in this? About becoming something you never intended to be? The question echoed her conversation with Danny, hitting uncomfortably close to home. Every day, she admitted. But I've decided that's not necessarily bad. Being afraid of who you're becoming means you're still conscious of the change, still able to make choices about it. And if the choices get harder, if the lines keep blurring until you can't remember what side you're on, then I guess I'll have to trust that the person I'm becoming is making those choices for the right reasons. She studied his young face. Why do you ask? Because I look at you and see someone who could have been anything, could have built any kind of life. And you chose this one. I'm trying to understand why. So am I, she said honestly. But here's what I know. This world exists whether I'm part of it or not. And if I'm going to be here anyway, I'd rather be someone with the power to change things, to make them better, even in small ways. Can you make them better? Or does this world just corrupt everyone who enters it? Ria thought about Adrian, who'd built an empire to survive but used it to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. About Katya, who ran operations with ruthless efficiency but donated anonymously to homeless shelters. About Victor, who could kill without hesitation but treated the young guards like sons. I think, she said slowly, that corruption is a choice, just like everything else. You can let this world turn you into a monster, or you can hold on to whatever humanity you have and try to use your power for something beyond pure self-interest. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. I hope you're right, because we need someone like you. Someone who remembers what it's like to be on the outside. He left, and Rhea found herself alone in the empty meeting room, staring at the seat she'd occupied. Her seat now, equal to Adrian's, representing power and authority she'd never imagined having. The door opened. Adrian returned carrying 2 glasses of whiskey. Thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. She accepted it, sipped the familiar burn. Did I do okay? You were perfect. Firm but fair, strong but not aggressive. Every person in that room now understands that you're not just my partner in name, but in practice. Half of them still don't trust me. Trust is earned over time. You've got their respect, which is harder to get. The trust will follow. He raised his glass. To new partnerships. To new beginnings, she countered, and they drank. 1 month later, Rhea stood in what used to be Marcello's restaurant, watching contractors gut the interior. Adrian had bought the building and they were converting it into something new, a legitimate restaurant that would employ people from the neighborhood, serve good food at fair prices, and provide a safe gathering space for the community. It was Rhea's idea, her first major project as co-head of operations, a way to give back to the place where everything had started. The contractor says 6 weeks until completion, Katya reported, reviewing plans on her tablet. We've already received over 100 employment applications, most of them from people you used to work with. Including Marco? Rhea asked. Especially Marco. He's asking to be head waiter. Says he'll only take orders from you, though. Rhea smiled at that. Marco had been terrified of her when she first started serving Adrian. Now he recognized her as someone with the power to change his circumstances. She walked through the empty space, remembering the night everything changed. The window where the attack had started. The table where Adrian had sat every Tuesday. The spot where she'd thrown herself in front of him without thinking. That impulsive act had set everything else in motion. Had transformed her from invisible waitress to equal partner with one of the most powerful men in the city. Do you miss it? Adrian asked, appearing beside her. The simple life. Working for tips, going home to a quiet apartment. Sometimes, she admitted. Usually around 3 a.m. when I can't sleep because I'm worrying about security protocols or territory disputes. She looked at him. But then I remember what that life cost me. The exhaustion. The powerlessness. The constant fear that one medical bill or missed shift would destroy everything. And this life. What does it cost you? She thought about Danny, who'd moved into student housing near the hospital and called less frequently, about the lines she'd crossed and the person she'd become, about the fact that she could never go back to being someone who didn't know what she knew now. Everything and nothing, she said finally. I'm not the person I was, but I'm someone I can live with, someone I might even be proud of on good days. What about today? Proud or conflicted? She looked around the restaurant again, imagining it filled with people who'd have jobs and security because she'd made it happen. Proud, she decided. Definitely proud. Her phone buzzed. A message from Danny. Finished my first surgery rotation. Helped save a life today. Coffee tomorrow? She replied immediately. Absolutely. My treat. Proud of you? His response came quickly. Proud of you too, even if I don't always understand your choices. Something tight in Rhea's chest loosened. Danny hadn't abandoned her. He just needed space to process the changes. And now he was reaching out again, finding a way to accept her new reality while building his own. Good news? Adrian asked, reading her expression. The best. My brother still loves me despite everything. Of course he does. You're his sister. That doesn't change. Everything else has changed. Not everything. Adrian took her hand, laced their fingers together. You're still fierce and brilliant. Still refuse to back down from challenges. Still the woman who looked a crime boss in the eye and treated him like a human being. That woman was terrified. That woman was brave, and she grew into someone extraordinary. He pulled her closer. I watched you in that meeting last month, saw the way people responded to you. You've become exactly what I hoped you would, a partner who makes me better, who challenges me to be more than just fear and violence. I learned from the best. No, you taught yourself. I just gave you the opportunity. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. So what's next? We've secured peace with the Kozlovs, rebuilt our operations, established your authority. What does Rhea Carter want to build now? She thought about the question, about the power she now wielded and how she wanted to use it. More of this, she said, gesturing to the restaurant. Legitimate businesses that help people, systems that create opportunities instead of destroying them, ways to use this organization's resources for something beyond pure profit. Careful, keep talking like that and people will think you're trying to reform me. Maybe I am, or maybe I'm just trying to prove that power can be used for more than conquest. She met his eyes. You built an empire to survive. What if we turned it into something that helps others survive too? Adrian was quiet for a long moment, considering. Then he smiled. Not his cold, calculating smile, but something genuine and warm. You're going to change everything, aren't you? Probably. Is that a problem? Not even a little bit. He kissed her softly. Change it all. Make it better. I'll be right beside you. 6 months later, the restaurant opened to massive success. 3 more community-focused businesses followed. A training center for job skills, a medical clinic offering affordable care, a youth center with after-school programs. All of them profitable, all of them making a difference. Adrian's organization began to shift, gradually but noticeably. The violence didn't disappear. It was still a criminal empire, still operating in a dangerous world. But it became more surgical, more purposeful. Less about conquest and more about protection. People noticed. The city noticed. And Rhea Carter became known not as a crime boss's girlfriend or assistant, but as a force in her own right. Someone who'd transformed from nothing into power, who'd taken the dangerous world she'd been thrown into and shaped it into something better. 1 year to the day after the attack at Marcello's, Rhea returned to the warehouse where Adrian had first brought her after his estate burned. It was empty now, converted into a distribution center for their legitimate operations. But she could still see the ghosts of that night, the makeshift command center, the guards sleeping on cots, Adrian's blood on her hands as she'd fought to keep him alive. Sentimental journey? Victor asked, finding her in the main space. Something like that, remembering where we started. And looking at where we are now, he gestured to the organized rows of supplies, the computer systems tracking inventory, the employees working normal shifts at fair wages. You did this, turned chaos into order. We did this, all of us. Don't sell yourself short, Miss Carter. You're the one who saw the possibilities. Who believed we could be more than just another criminal organization? He smiled slightly. Adrian was right about you. You changed everything. For better or worse? Better. Definitely better. He started to leave, then paused. Your brother stopped by yesterday. Danny. He was looking for you. Did he say why? Just that he wanted to introduce you to his girlfriend. Said it was time for the important people in his life to meet each other. Warmth flooded through Rhea. Danny was building his own life, his own future, but he still wanted her to be part of it. Still saw her as family, despite everything that had changed. Thank you for telling me, she said. After Victor left, Rhea walked through the quiet warehouse one last time, saying goodbye to the person she'd been when she first arrived here. The terrified woman who'd saved Adrian's life without thinking, the reluctant participant who'd accepted his protection out of necessity. That woman was gone, replaced by someone stronger, someone who'd chosen power consciously and wielded it purposefully, someone who'd looked at an impossible situation and turned it into an opportunity. Her phone rang. Adrian. Where are you? He asked. The old warehouse, just thinking. Come to Eclipse. There's something I want to show you. She arrived to find the club closed, empty except for Adrian waiting at a table on the top floor. Not the meeting room where she'd claimed her authority, but the main dining area with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. More specifically, at table 7. The table that had been relocated from Marcello's, the table where everything had started. What's this? She asked, seeing the 2 place settings, the bottle of expensive wine, the intimate setup. A reminder, Adrian said, pulling out her chair, of a Tuesday night when a tired waitress treated me like a human being and changed my entire world. She sat, overwhelmed by the symbolism. You moved the table. I bought it when we acquired Marcello's, had it restored and brought here. He sat across from her, exactly as he had that first night. I wanted you to see how far we've come. From that moment when you refused to be afraid of me to this moment where we stand as equals. We're not equals. You built this empire long before I arrived, and you transformed it into something worth more than just money and power. You gave it purpose. He poured wine for both of them. Every Tuesday for years, I sat at this table alone. People feared me, avoided me, treated me like a monster they had to appease. Then you showed up and saw something else, something human. I saw someone who tipped well and looked tired, she said with a slight smile. You saw past the fear, past the reputation, and that changed me fundamentally. He raised his glass. So here's to the girl who didn't bow, who stood her ground, saved my life, and became the most important person in my world. They drank, and Ria felt the weight of everything that had led to this moment. Every choice, every risk, every line crossed had brought her here, to this table, to this man, to this life she'd built from impossible circumstances. What happens now? She asked, echoing the question she'd asked a dozen times over the past year. Now we keep building, keep changing things, keep proving that power can be used for more than destruction. Adrian reached across the table, took her hand, and we do it together, always together. Always, she agreed. They sat at table 7 as the city lights blazed around them. Two people who'd found each other in the darkest circumstances and created something extraordinary. The crime boss who'd learned mercy from a waitress, the woman who'd claimed power she never sought and used it to transform an empire. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. Inside Eclipse, at a table that had witnessed the beginning of everything, Ria Carter and Adrian Volkov raised their glasses one more time. To new beginnings, to power claimed and used wisely, to the courage to change and the strength to build something better from broken pieces, and to the perfect symmetry of a story that started with fear at table 7 and ended with love at the same table, a year later, and a lifetime changed. The girl who didn't bow had become a queen who chose her crown consciously, and she wore it with the same fierce honesty that had saved a crime boss's life and transformed her own in the process. The end.